A door slams shut. An ivory white wedding dress. An offer you can't refuse. Tonight, Alina Varelli will marry a man she's never kissed, a mob boss the city only whispers about. The reason? Someone wants her dead. And he, Kael Draven, is the only shield sharp enough to fight back. This isn't a romance. This is a fight for survival disguised as a wedding ring. Follow along to the end. Like and comment the name of the city you're watching in, so I know how far my story has progressed. The dress arrived in a black garment bag carried by a man whose face Alina would never remember. She'd opened the door expecting a food delivery, pad thai, extra lime, and instead got silence and expensive fabric rustling like a threat. "What is this?" she'd asked, but the man was already gone. Now the bag hung on her closet door like a body. She stood 3 feet away, phone in hand, debating whether to call the police. Except she'd worked dispatch long enough to know what they'd say. "No crime committed, ma'am." Could be a prank. Could be a secret admirer. Could be a lot of things that made her skin crawl. The apartment felt smaller suddenly. Studio, 6th floor. Windows that faced an alley where rats fought over dumpster scraps at 2 a.m. She'd moved here 8 months ago because the rent was cheap and the landlord didn't ask questions. Independence, she'd called it. Her mother called it stubbornness. Alina unzipped the bag. The dress spilled out like moonlight, all silk and delicate beading that caught the overhead light. A wedding dress. Not off the rack. Custom. The kind of gown that cost more than her car, which was saying something because her car was held together with duct tape and prayer. Her hands shook as she checked the tag. No label, no note. Just perfection hanging there, mocking her. She should have thrown it out the window, should have burned it in the bathtub. Instead, she touched the fabric, cool, impossibly soft, and felt something twist in her chest. Not desire. Recognition, maybe. Like the dress knew her measurements, her shape, the exact length of her spine. The door slammed open. Alina spun, heart jackhammering, and saw him. Kael Draven didn't knock, didn't apologize. He walked into her apartment like he owned it, which, she'd later learn, he did. Owned the building, owned the block. Owned everything except the small, defiant part of her brain still screaming, "Run." "Put it on," he said. His voice was worse than she'd imagined. Smooth, controlled, the kind of voice that gave orders and expected obedience, not because of volume, but because of certainty. He wore black, suit, shirt, even his watch, and his eyes were the color of slate before a storm. Alina's breath caught. "Who the hell are you?" "Kael Draven." 2 words. That's all it took for her world to tilt sideways. Everyone knew the name. Street kids whispered it. Cops avoided it. Her coworker once joked that saying it 3 times in a mirror summoned an audit from the IRS and a missing person report. Kael Draven didn't exist in official records, but he existed everywhere else. In the shadows. In the money that moved through the city's veins. In the careful way people chose their words when his name came up. "You need to leave," Alina said, voice steadier than she felt. "Now." He didn't move. "You have 1 hour." "For what?" "To put on the dress. To marry me. To live." Her laugh came out broken. "You're insane." Factual. He stepped closer, and she saw it then. The thing her dispatcher instincts had been screaming about. Control, yes, but fraying at the edges. His jaw was too tight, his breathing too measured. This wasn't a man playing games. This was a man in the middle of a crisis, handling it the only way he knew how, with force. "There's a contract on you," Kael said, each word precise. "Issued 4 hours ago. 50,000. Dead or alive, but they prefer dead, cleaner." Alina's knees went liquid. You don't know why. Neither do I. What I know is that 3 professionals are en route, and my name is the only thing that will stop them." He picked up the dress, held it out. "So put this on, or I leave you to them." "This is insane," she repeated, but her hands were already reaching for the fabric. "You have 58 minutes. Well, the bathroom was too small for the dress. Alina struggled with the zipper, fingers numb, mind racing through every bad decision that had led here. The job at the dispatch center, the late shifts, the guy she'd smiled at last week, Carlo something, who bought her coffee and asked about her schedule. Oh God, Carlo. She'd thought he was harmless, friendly. Now she couldn't remember his face, just the way he'd watched her leave, like he was memorizing her route. The dress fit perfectly. Of course it did. She stared at herself in the mirror, pale skin, dark eyes too wide, hair that needed washing. A bride. Except brides were supposed to feel something other than nausea. Brides chose this. When she emerged, Kael was on the phone, speaking in a language she didn't recognize. Russian, maybe. Or something older. He ended the call when he saw her, and for 1 second, just one, something flickered across his face. Not quite surprise, not quite approval. Hunger, maybe. Good, he said. We leave now. I need answers. Alina planted her feet, even though the heels were too high and her balance was shit. Why me? What did I do? You existed in my line of sight. That's not an answer. Kael's expression didn't change, but his eyes did something complicated. 2 weeks ago, I attended a charity gala. You were working coat check. I asked for water. You brought it without being asked to smile. He paused. Someone noticed. Noticed what? That I noticed you. The words hit like a slap. Alina's mind rewound. The gala, the endless parade of rich assholes demanding things. The one guy who'd said please and thank you like they were real words. She'd barely looked at him, barely registered his face beyond tall, dark suit, tired eyes. And now she was going to die for it. This is insane, she said again, because apparently her vocabulary had shrunk to one useless phrase. 42 minutes. Kael opened the door. The car is waiting. The vehicle was black, bulletproof, and driven by a woman who introduced herself as Vera, with the same warmth someone might say, tumor. Alina sat in the back, dress pooling around her legs, while Kael made calls in that same unidentifiable language. The city blurred past. Her city. Streets she knew by heart, now foreign and hostile. They passed the dispatch center, dark windows, empty parking lot, and she felt something crack in her chest. Her life was in there. Small, maybe. Boring, definitely, but hers. Where are we going? She asked. City Hall. Judge Carmichael is waiting. You bribed a judge. I own a judge, Kael corrected. There's a difference. Alina laughed high and sharp. Right, silly me. He looked at her then, really looked, and she saw something she didn't expect. Exhaustion. Deep, bone-level weariness that made him seem almost human. I know what this is, he said quietly. I know what I'm taking from you. Do you? Yes. No hesitation, no comfort, just fact. But I'm giving you something in return. What? A target on my back? The target's already there. I'm giving you armor. The car stopped. City Hall loomed ahead, all stone and columns, and the weight of 1,000 bad decisions made official. Alina's hand went to the door handle, but didn't pull. What if I run? She asked. You won't make it to the corner. What if I scream? No one will help. What if I say no? Kael's jaw tightened. Then I'll have Vera drive you home, and in approximately, he checked his watch, 38 minutes, someone will put a bullet in your head while you're brushing your teeth. Alina closed her eyes, breathed, opened them. Let's get this over with. Judge Carmichael had kind eyes and a signature that cost Kael $20,000. The ceremony took 4 minutes. No music, no flowers. Just words that sounded like a eulogy and 2 rings produced from Kael's pocket. His, black titanium, hers, a band of white gold so simple it almost hurt. Do you take this man? Yes, Alina said, because what was the point of dragging it out? Kael's turn. Same question, same answer, delivered with the enthusiasm of someone confirming a dental appointment. You may kiss the bride. They didn't. Carmichael didn't push it. He signed the papers, shook Kael's hand, and disappeared into the back rooms like he'd never existed. Alina stood there, married, while her new husband made another phone call. It's done, Kael said into the receiver. Spread the word. She's mine. She's mine. The word settled in Alina's stomach like stones. Outside, the city had shifted. Same streets, different context. Vera opened the car door, and Alina climbed in, train catching on the seat. Kael slid in beside her, close enough that she could smell him, something clean and sharp, like winter. Where now? She asked. Home. I have a home. You had a home? Now you have a fortress. The penthouse was glass and steel, and enough square footage to house a small village. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city like a threat. Glittering lights, dark spaces, the sense that everything was watching. Alina stood in the center of the living room, dressed suddenly absurd, and felt the urge to laugh or scream or both. Your room is to the left, Kael said, shrugging off his jacket. Mine is to the right. Don't cross the threshold uninvited. Romantic. He paused. This isn't romance, Mrs. Draven. This is survival. The name hit her like a fist. Mrs. Draven. She was married to a ghost, a legend, a man who owned judges and buildings and possibly her future. I need to call my mother, Alina said. No. Excuse me? Kael turned and she saw it again. That edge of something raw beneath the control. Your old life is gone. Calling her puts her at risk. Visiting her puts her at risk. Even thinking about her in the wrong place puts her at risk. He stepped closer. So no, you don't call, you don't write. You vanish, and you let her think whatever she needs to think to stay alive. Alina's vision blurred. I hate you. Good. Hate is honest. He picked up his phone. Dinner will be delivered in an hour. Eat, sleep. Tomorrow, we establish rules. What kind of rules? The kind that keep you breathing. He left, just walked away like she wasn't standing there in a wedding dress, in a stranger's home, in a life that had been hijacked somewhere between pad thai and I do. Alina waited until she heard his door close. Then she collapsed. The room Kael had assigned her was bigger than her apartment. King bed, attached bathroom, a closet already filled with clothes in her exact size, jeans, sweaters, dresses that weren't bridal. Someone had done research. Someone had planned this down to her shoe size. The thought made her want to vomit. Instead, she peeled off the dress, left it in a heap on the floor, and stepped into the shower. The water was scalding, but she didn't adjust it. She needed to feel something other than numb, something other than the weight of Kael's ring on her finger. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel, she found food on the bedside table. Pad thai, extra lime. Her knees buckled. She sank onto the bed, staring at the containers, and felt something inside her chest crack wide open. Kael Draven, urban legend, crime lord, the man who owned half the city, had remembered her order. It was the cruelest kindness she'd ever received. Alina ate mechanically, tasting nothing. Then she crawled under the covers and waited for sleep that wouldn't come. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, the penthouse was silent except for the faint sound of piano music drifting from somewhere deeper in the apartment. Chopin, maybe. Or something sadder. She closed her eyes and tried to imagine a world where she'd wake up in her own bed, in her own life, with nothing more dangerous than an overdue electric bill. Instead, she dreamed of slate-gray eyes and a voice like steel under velvet, saying, "You're mine," over and over, until the words became a heartbeat. Morning arrived with gunfire. Alina jerked awake, disoriented, heart slamming against her ribs. The sound came again, not gunfire, she realized. Someone pounding on the penthouse door, shouting. A woman's voice, shrill and furious. She grabbed a robe from the closet and stumbled into the hallway just as Kael emerged from his room. He was shirtless, wearing only black pants, and for a second Alina forgot how to breathe. Scars. So many scars. Across his ribs, his shoulder, a long jagged line down his side that looked like someone had tried to gut him and failed. "Stay in your room," he ordered. "Who is that?" The pounding intensified. "Kael, open this door or I swear to God." "Irina," Kael said, jaw tight. "My sister." Sister. Alina didn't move, couldn't. The word didn't fit. Kael Draven didn't have family. He had enemies and assets and people who owed him favors. He opened the door. The woman who stormed in was tall, blonde, and wearing a leather jacket that probably cost more than Alina's car. She took one look at Kael, then at Alina, and her expression went from fury to something worse, pity. "You married her," Irina said flatly. "Yes." "Without telling me." "Yes." "Is she at least willing?" Kael's silence was answer enough. Irina's laugh was bitter. Jesus, Kael, even for you, this is... She stopped, eyes narrowing. Wait, who put the contract out? We're working on it. We're working on it, Irina repeated, mocking. And in the meantime, you've turned this girl into bait. She was already bait, Kael said, voice dropping to something dangerous. I made her a bomb. The two of them stared at each other, some sibling argument playing out in silence. Alina felt like an exhibit, evidence, the thing they were fighting about without acknowledging she could hear every word. I should go, she said quietly. No. Kael didn't look at her. Irina was just leaving. Like hell I was. Irina turned and her expression softened fractionally. What's your name? Alina. Alina, pretty. Are you okay? The question was so unexpected, so normal, that Alina almost laughed. Define okay. Fair point. Irina glanced at Kael. You're going to get her killed. I'm going to keep her alive. Same thing, with you. Irina left without another word, door slamming behind her. The silence that followed felt heavier than the shouting. Kael stood there, still shirtless, still scarred, looking like a man who'd fought a war and couldn't remember what peace felt like. Your sister seems nice, Alina said. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. She's practical. She thinks I'm going to die. She thinks everyone's going to die. Occupational hazard. Kael finally looked at her, and something in his gaze made her pulse stutter. But she's wrong. You're not dying. Not on my watch. Why? Why what? Why do you care? Alina stepped closer, emboldened by exhaustion or stupidity or the faint memory of piano music from the night before. You don't know me. I'm just some girl who brought you water. Kael's expression went blank, locked down. Get dressed. Breakfast in 20 minutes. We have work to do. He turned and walked away, conversation over. Alina stood there, breathing hard, and realized something terrifying. She wanted him to care, wanted it to matter that he'd noticed her, wanted this to be something other than a transaction, which made her the biggest fool in the city. Breakfast was coffee and silence. Vera appeared, somehow more intimidating in daylight, and delivered a folder thick with documents. Kael spread them across the table, photos, surveillance reports, names Alina didn't recognize. These are the contractors, he said, tapping 3 faces. Mikhail Sokolov, June Park, Maria Reyes, all professionals, all en route before the marriage was official. And now? Now they're reassigned. Someone else is paying them to disappear. Alina studied the photos. Mikhail looked like a banker. June, a college student. Maria could have been anyone's aunt. They look normal. The best ones do. Kael's finger moved to another section. This is the problem. Single photo. A man in his 50s, silver hair, expensive suit. He stood on a yacht, champagne in hand, smiling at the camera. Viktor Arseniev, Kael said. He runs the Volkov syndicate, controls shipping, trafficking, half the judges I don't own. A pause. And he wants me dead. Why? Because I exist. Because I'm competition. Because 10 years ago I took something from him, and men like Viktor don't forget. What did you take? Kael's eyes went cold. His son. The words hung in the air. Alina's coffee turned to acid in her stomach. You killed... I gave Viktor's son a choice, Kael interrupted. Work for me or die in the harbor. He chose me. Viktor's been patient, until now. And I'm the message. You're the weakness he thinks he's found. Alina pushed back from the table, chair scraping. So what's the plan? I hide here forever? Become some locked-up princess in your glass tower? No. Kael stood, gathering the documents. You become visible, untouchable. We make appearances, dinners, galas. We show the city that you're not just my wife. You're my line in the sand. That's insane. That's survival. He looked at her, and for the first time she saw something like respect. You're tougher than you think, Alina. I saw it at the gala. You looked at those people like they were insects, necessary but beneath you. I was working coat check. Exactly. You had every reason to smile, to grovel, to play the part, but you didn't. You did your job and left them wanting. He stepped closer. That's the weapon, not the dress, not the ring. You. Alina's breath caught. And if I refuse? Then Victor wins, and you die knowing you had a chance to fight back but chose surrender instead. The challenge hung between them. Alina thought of her mother, safe, oblivious, probably already worried because she hadn't called. Thought of the dispatch center, her co-workers, the life she'd never appreciated until it was gone. Thought of the piano music and the pad thai and the way Kael looked at her like she was a problem he couldn't solve. Fine, she said, but I have conditions. Kael's eyebrow lifted. Such as? You don't lie to me. Not about the danger, not about your plans. If I'm doing this, I need to know what I'm walking into. Agreed. And you let me call my mother once a week from a secure line. No. Then we have a problem. They stared at each other. Kael's jaw worked like he was chewing glass. Finally. Once a month? 5 minutes? Supervised. Once every 2 weeks? 10 minutes. Alone. Once a month. 7 minutes. Vera listens. Alina wanted to argue, but she could see the wall in his eyes. This was as far as he'd bend. Deal. Good. Kael gathered the folder. We have a dinner tonight. Wear something that costs more than most people's rent. Romantic. He paused at the doorway. This isn't romance, Alina, but it might keep you alive long enough to hate me properly. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with cold coffee and the sinking realization that she'd just agreed to become bait in a war she didn't understand. The closet held 30 dresses. Alina chose black, simple, elegant, expensive enough to make a statement. Vera appeared at 7 with a stylist who did her makeup in silence, transforming her from dispatch girl into something sleek and dangerous. When she emerged, Kael was waiting in the living room, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her student loans. He looked her over once, expression unreadable. Good, he said. That was it. No compliment, no smile. Just good. Like she'd passed some test she hadn't known she was taking. The restaurant was exclusive, private, the kind of place that didn't have prices on the menu. They were led to a table in the back where 3 men waited, older, sharp-eyed, watching Kael like predators assessing another predator's territory. Gentlemen, Kael said smoothly, this is my wife, Alina. The word, wife, felt like armor and trap at once. The men stood, shook her hand, murmured pleasantries. But their eyes never left Kael, calculating, measuring. Dinner was a performance. Kael played the devoted husband, hand on her back, wine poured without asking, the occasional comment that suggested intimacy without confirming it. Alina played along, smiling at the right moments, laughing softly when one of the men made a joke that wasn't funny. But under the table her hands were fists. So tell me, the oldest one, Dmitri, said, leaning forward, how did you two meet? Alina felt Kael's eyes on her, testing. At a gala, she said smoothly. I was working. He was charming. Charming, Dmitri repeated, amused. Kael Draven. Charming. I have my moments, Kael said, hand sliding to Alina's knee under the table. The touch was warm, possessive, calculated to look natural. It burned. The dinner stretched. Courses arrived and disappeared. Conversations turned to business, shipments, territories, things Alina didn't fully understand but memorized anyway. And through it all, Kael's hand stayed on her leg, thumb brushing absent patterns that made her skin prickle. When they finally left, she was exhausted, wrung out. Vera drove in silence while Kael made calls, his voice low and sharp. Back at the penthouse, Alina kicked off her heels and turned to find Kael watching her. You did well, he said. I lied to strangers. Not exactly heroic. You survived. That's all that matters. He loosened his tie, and she saw the exhaustion again, that bone-deep weariness that made him seem almost human. Get some rest. Tomorrow's worse. Worse how? Victor knows you exist now, which means he'll test the boundaries. Alina's stomach dropped. Test how? We'll find out. Kael headed for his room, then paused. For what it's worth, you were convincing tonight. Almost made me believe it. Believe what? He didn't answer, just closed his door, leaving her alone in the glass tower with the city glittering below like a million watching eyes. Alina stood there, heart racing, and realized she'd made a terrible mistake. Not marrying Kael, but starting to believe that maybe he wasn't just using her. That maybe he'd noticed her for a reason that had nothing to do with Victor or contracts or survival. That maybe the piano music and the pad thai and the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching meant something. And that realization, that tiny, stupid spark of hope, was more dangerous than any bullet. She was halfway to her room when the lights went out. Not a flicker, not a brownout. Total darkness, sudden and absolute. The city beyond the windows vanished. The hum of electronics died. Even the backup generators didn't kick in. Alina froze, pulse spiking. Then she heard it, footsteps. Not from Kael's room, from the hallway. Slow, deliberate. Someone who knew where they were going. Kael? Her voice came out small. No answer. The footsteps stopped. Alina's breath came short and sharp. She backed toward her room, hand fumbling for the doorknob, and that's when the emergency light snapped on, dim, red, painting everything in shades of blood. And in the hallway, silhouetted against the red glow, stood a figure she didn't recognize. A man, tall, gun in hand. He smiled. "Mrs. Draven," he said softly. "We need to talk." Ick. The gun wasn't pointed at her. Not yet. But it was there. Black metal catching the red emergency light, casual in the stranger's grip like he'd been born holding it. Alina's throat closed. Her hand found the doorknob behind her, slick with sweat, but she didn't turn it. Running meant dying faster. She'd learned that much from the dispatch center. Panic got people killed. "Who are you?" Her voice came out steadier than her legs felt. The man stepped closer. Mid-30s, maybe. Clean-shaven. Wearing a suit that cost real money. He looked like he belonged at the dinner she'd just left, shaking hands and drinking wine. "Daniel Cross," he said. "We haven't met, but I know you, Alina Virelli. Or should I say Draven now. How did you get in here?" "Kael's security is excellent, not perfect." Daniel's smile didn't reach his eyes. The power grid was easier than expected. The backup generators, well, those were trickier, but doable. Alina's mind raced. The hallway stretched behind him. Kael's door was closed, 20 feet away, maybe less. She could scream, should scream, but something in Daniel's posture told her the gun would lift before the sound left her throat. "What do you want?" she asked. "A conversation, that's all." He gestured toward the living room. "Shall we sit? This doesn't have to be unpleasant." "You broke into my home with a gun. Our definitions of unpleasant must differ." Daniel's expression shifted, harder, colder. "Move. Now." She moved. The living room looked wrong in the red light. Furniture became shapes. The windows showed nothing but darkness. The city had vanished, or maybe it was just them, suspended in some pocket dimension where normal rules didn't apply. Daniel sat in Kael's chair. Alina stayed standing. "Where's Kael?" she asked. "Occupied. My associate is having a chat with him as we speak." Daniel crossed his legs, gun resting on his knee. "Don't worry. He's not dead. Yet. That depends on you." Alina's stomach lurched. "What does that mean?" "It means you have a choice to make, Mrs. Draven, and I suggest you make it quickly." Behind her, somewhere deeper in the penthouse, she heard a sound. Muffled. Could have been anything. Could have been Kael fighting for his life while she stood here playing polite with his killer. "I'm listening," she said, because what else could she say? Daniel smiled. "Smart girl. Victor was right about you." The name hit like a fist. Victor Arseniev, the man who wanted Kael dead, the man whose son Kael had stolen a decade ago. "Victor sent you," Alina said flatly. "Victor employs me." "There's a difference." Daniel leaned forward. "Here's what you need to understand. Kael Draven is a dead man. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not this month. But soon. Victor's been patient, but patience has limits. So kill him and get it over with." "We tried. Your husband is frustratingly difficult to murder." The gun lifted slightly, just enough to remind her it existed. which is where you come in. Alina's blood went cold. I'm not helping you kill him. I'm not asking you to. Daniel's tone was almost gentle. I'm offering you a way out, a clean exit. We fake your death, car accident, home invasion, something tragic but believable. You disappear. New identity, new city, enough money to start over. He paused. And Kael loses his shield, his weakness. Within a week, he'll make a mistake, and we'll be there. The offer hung in the air. Alina's mind stuttered over it, catching on details. Enough money to start over. A life. Freedom. No more glass towers or performance dinners or lying to her mother. All she had to do was abandon a man she barely knew. Why? She asked. Why not just shoot me now? Because Victor wants Kael to suffer first. Losing you. Losing the one thing he chose to protect. That's suffering. Daniel stood, closing the distance between them. I'm giving you a chance most people don't get, Alina. A chance to live. All you have to do is walk away. Alina thought about Kael, the scars, the exhaustion, the way he'd remembered her pad thai order like it mattered. The piano music drifting through the penthouse at 2 a.m. She thought about the wedding dress and the ring on her finger and the look in his eyes when he'd said, "You're mine." No, she said. Daniel blinked. Excuse me? I said no. Alina's hands were shaking, but her voice held. You want to kill Kael? You'll have to go through me. Literally. Don't be stupid. I'm being practical. You said it yourself. Kael's hard to kill, which means he's probably already dealt with your associate, which means you're alone in a penthouse owned by the most dangerous man in the city. She stepped closer, reckless with adrenaline. So either shoot me now and explain to Victor why you wasted his leverage, or get the hell out before Kael finds you. Daniel's jaw tightened. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, Alina thought she'd miscalculated. Thought the gun would rise, and that would be it, dead on the living room floor in a borrowed robe. Then Kael's voice cut through the silence. She's right. You should leave. He stood in the hallway entrance, shirtless, bloody. His left hand pressed against his ribs where something dark seeped through his fingers. His right hand held a gun, bigger than Daniel's, steadier. Kael, Daniel said carefully. This doesn't have to... The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Daniel jerked backward, red blooming on his shoulder. He hit the floor hard, gun skittering across the marble. Alina didn't move. Couldn't. Her ears rang. Her vision tunneled. Kael walked forward, limping slightly, and kicked Daniel's gun away. Then he looked at Alina, and something in his expression made her knees buckle. You should have taken the deal, he said quietly. What? The offer. New life. Money. Safety. Kael crouched beside Daniel, who was gasping, clutching his shoulder. You should have taken it. I'm not abandoning you. Why not? The question came out harsh, angry. You don't owe me anything. I dragged you into this, forced you into a marriage you didn't want, turned your life into a target. He pressed his gun against Daniel's temple. So why the hell didn't you run when you had the chance? Alina's throat closed. Because she didn't have an answer. Or she did, but it was too stupid to say out loud. Because the piano music mattered. Because the pad thai mattered. Because somewhere between the wedding dress and tonight, she'd stopped seeing Kael as a captor and started seeing him as, Where's the other one? Kael asked Daniel, voice dropping to something lethal. Daniel laughed, wet and pained. Dead. Your bedroom. You're getting slow, Draven. And you're getting talkative. Kael stood, swaying slightly. The blood on his ribs was spreading. Alina, go to your room. Lock the door. You're bleeding. I'm aware. I need you to do what I'm telling you. Kael looked at her, and the exhaustion was back, drowning everything else. Please. The word please broke something in her. Alina nodded and backed toward her room, but she didn't lock the door. She watched through the crack as Kael made a call, spoke in that unidentifiable language, then dragged Daniel toward the elevator. The power flickered back on. City lights bloomed beyond the windows. The penthouse hummed to life. And Kael collapsed. Alina moved without thinking. She crossed the living room, dropped to her knees beside him, hands hovering over the wound. Blood. Everywhere. Too much blood. You're an idiot, she said, voice cracking. Kael's eyes opened. Noted. Where's the first aid kit? Bathroom. Under the sink. He tried to sit up. Failed. You should have locked the door. Shut up. Alina ran to the bathroom, grabbed the kit, military grade, comprehensive, and ran back. Her hand shook as she tore open gauze packets. This is going to hurt. Everything hurts. She pressed the gauze against his ribs. He hissed, jaw clenching, but didn't pull away. The wound was deep but clean. Knife, probably. The kind of cut that would scar. Who was the other one? Alina asked, focusing on her hands to keep from thinking about what she was doing. Alexei Volkov, Viktor's nephew. Kael's breathing was shallow. He's in my bedroom with a broken neck. You killed him. He tried to kill me first, seemed fair. Alina taped down the gauze, then grabbed a clean shirt from the kit and helped him into it. The fabric stuck to the bandage, already darkening. He needed a hospital, real stitches. But hospitals asked questions, and questions led to police, and police meant exposure. Vera's coming, Kael said, reading her mind. She'll handle cleanup, disposal, making sure tonight never happened. Except it did happen. Alina sat back on her heels, suddenly exhausted. Victor sent 2 men into your home. Into our home. He's not going to stop. No. So what do we do? Kael looked at her and something shifted in his expression. We make him regret it. The elevator dinged. Vera emerged with 3 men in black tactical gear. They moved through the penthouse like ghosts, efficient, silent, erasing evidence. One disappeared into Kael's bedroom. Another dealt with the blood on the living room floor. The third helped Kael to his feet. I'm fine, Kael said, shaking him off. You're bleeding, Vera corrected, her voice flat. Dr. Chen is waiting downstairs. Chen can wait. Kael. I said he can wait. Kael turned to Alina. We need to talk, privately. Vera's expression didn't change, but something in her posture radiated disapproval. She nodded once and returned to directing her team. Kael limped toward his office, a room Alina had never entered. She followed, heart still racing, mind still trying to process the last 20 minutes. The office was smaller than she'd expected. Desk, bookshelves, a wall of monitors showing different angles of the building, and in the corner, a piano, sleek black, keys gleaming. You play, Alina said, stupid with shock. Sometimes. Kael sank into his desk chair, wincing. When I need to think. Is that what I heard last night? Chopin? Debussy. He pulled open a drawer, extracted a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses, poured without asking if she wanted any. Sit. Alina sat, accepted the glass, drank. The whiskey burned, but it was a clean burn, clarifying. You didn't take the deal, Kael said. No. Why? There it was again, the same question he'd asked in the living room, but quieter now, more dangerous. Alina stared into her glass. I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She looked up. You could have let them take me. Told Daniel I meant nothing. Played the cold bastard everyone thinks you are. But you didn't, because you're my responsibility. Bullshit! The word came out sharp. You protect me like I'm more than that, like I'm... She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. Kael's jaw worked. You're my wife. On paper, in every way that matters to Victor. He drained his glass, poured another. That contract, the one that started all this, it wasn't random. Victor researched you, found out where you worked, what you ordered for dinner, which route you took home. He knew exactly who you were when he put the hit out. Alina's stomach dropped. Why? Because 2 weeks ago, at that gala, I did something I haven't done in 10 years. Kael's eyes met hers. I let someone see me. The words hung between them. Alina's breath caught. The water, she said softly. You thanked me. I asked for something, and you brought it without expectation, without performance. You treated me like a person, not a transaction. Kael's hand tightened on his glass. And Victor's people were watching. They saw it. Saw me notice you. And they knew, his voice roughened. They knew it was the first crack in a decade of armor. Alina's chest ached. So this is my fault. No. The word came out hard. Final. This is Victor's fault. This is my fault for being careless, but not yours. Never yours. Then whose fault is it that I'm sitting here married to a man who kills people in his bedroom? Mine. No hesitation. All mine. The honesty gutted her. Alina stood, paced to the piano, pressed a key. Middle C, pure and clear. I should hate you. You should. I should have taken that deal. Should have run. Should have... She turned. But I didn't. And I don't know what that makes me. Kael stood slowly, crossed to her. He was close enough that she could see the exhaustion carving lines around his eyes. Close enough that she could smell blood and whiskey and something underneath that was just him. It makes you dangerous, he said quietly, because now I have something to lose. His hand lifted, hovering near her face. Not touching, just there, trembling slightly like he was fighting the urge to close the distance. Alina's heart hammered. Kael... The monitors beeped. Both of them turned. On screen 3, a car pulled up to the building entrance. Black sedan, tinted windows. Expecting someone? Alina asked. Kael's expression went dark. No. He moved to the desk, pulled up additional camera angles. The sedan's doors opened. 4 men emerged, suits, earpieces, the kind of coordinated movement that screamed professional. Vera, Kael said into his phone, we have visitors. On the monitor, the men entered the lobby. The night guard, one of Kael's people, stepped forward to intercept. Words were exchanged. Then one of the visitors showed something, a badge maybe, and the guard stepped back. Who are they? Alina asked. Federal. Kael's voice was tight. Someone called in tonight's incident. But Vera said, Vera's good. But she's not magic. He turned. They're coming up. You need to be ready. Ready for what? Questions, lies. They'll try to separate us, get conflicting stories. Kael gripped her shoulders. Do you trust me? The question should have been easy. The answer should have been no. But Alina looked at him, bloody, exhausted, holding together by sheer force of will, and felt something shift in her chest. Yes, she said. Then follow my lead. No matter what I say, back it up. The elevator dinged. Kael released her, stepped back, and by the time the office door opened, his expression was perfectly blank. Professional. The mask he wore for the world. A woman entered first. Late 40s, silver streak in her dark hair, eyes that missed nothing. Her badge said FBI. Her posture said she'd seen worse than Kael Draven and wasn't impressed. Mr. Draven, she said, I'm Special Agent Catherine Morris. We need to talk about tonight. They sat in the living room, Kael and Alina on one sofa, Agent Morris and her partner across from them. The other 2 agents prowled the perimeter, cataloging, photographing. We received a call, Morris said, notebook open. Anonymous tip about shots fired in this building. When we arrived, your security was uncooperative. My security is paid to be cautious, Kael replied smoothly. False alarms are common in this neighborhood. Are they? Morris's gaze flicked to Alina. Mrs. Draven, you look shaken. Alina forced a smile. It's been a long night. I'm sure. Newlyweds, correct? Congratulations. Morris's tone suggested the opposite. Tell me, were you here when the alleged shots were fired? I was in my room, Alina said. The power went out. I heard a noise, but it turned out to be nothing. Nothing. Morris wrote something. And you, Mr. Draven? I was on a conference call, Tokyo office. Kael's hand found Alina's, laced their fingers together. The touch was warm, possessive. When the power failed, I checked the backup systems. Standard procedure. You're bleeding. Every eye in the room turned to Kael's ribs, where red had seeped through his shirt despite the bandage. Accident, Kael said. Cut myself on a filing cabinet during the blackout. Clumsy. Morris's expression said she didn't believe a word. I'd like to see that filing cabinet. It's in storage. 63rd floor. Of course it is. Morris closed her notebook. Here's what I think happened, Mr. Draven. I think someone broke into your home tonight. I think there was an altercation, and I think you're covering it up because involving law enforcement complicates your very private business affairs. Kael's expression didn't flicker. That's quite a theory, Agent Morris. It's what the evidence suggests. She stood. But without a body, without witnesses, without cooperation, There's not much I can do, for now. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Whatever you're involved in, whoever you've crossed, it will come back. And when it does, I'll be there to pick up the pieces. Morris's gaze shifted to Alina. Both of you. She gestured to her team. They filed out, silent and efficient. The last agent paused at the elevator, met Kael's eyes, and shook his head slowly. A warning. The elevator doors closed. Kael's hand released Alina's immediately. He stood, paced to the windows, and slammed his palm against the glass hard enough to make her flinch. They know, he said. Know what? That something happened. They'll dig, pull records, interview neighbors. Morris is good. She won't let this go. Alina joined him at the window. The city spread below, oblivious and glittering. What do we do? We accelerate. Kael turned and the exhaustion was gone, replaced by something harder, colder. Victor wanted to draw me out. Fine, I'll give him what he wants. That's insane. That's the only play we have left. He pulled out his phone, dialed. Irina, it's me. We move tomorrow night. Yes, I'm sure, because if we wait, Victor will. He paused. Tell Sergei to get the cars ready. Full detail. And find out who called the FBI. He ended the call. Looked at Alina. Tomorrow night, he said, Victor's hosting a charity auction. Legitimate front, but half the syndicate will be there. We attend. Public. Visible. We show him that tonight didn't work. You want to walk into a room full of people who want you dead. I want to walk in with you on my arm and make Victor understand that you're not a weakness. Kael's eyes burned. You're a declaration of war. Alina should have been terrified, should have grabbed her phone, called Agent Morris, begged for witness protection. Instead, she heard herself say, What do I wear? Kael's mouth curved, not quite a smile, but close. Something red said. The next day crawled. Kael disappeared into his office for hours, making calls, planning. Vera came and went, updating him in clipped Russian. Dr. Chen arrived, stitched Kael's ribs properly, and left with a warning about infection that Kael ignored. Alina tried to call her mother. Vera intercepted her in the hallway, hand out. Phone. It's been 2 weeks. We agreed. Your agreement with Kael is suspended until the current threat is neutralized. Vera's expression was granite. Phone. Now. Alina handed it over, hating herself for the compliance. When do I get it back? When you're not bait. Vera walked away, leaving Alina alone in the glass tower with nothing but her thoughts and the growing certainty that she'd made a catastrophic mistake. Not marrying Kael, but believing she could survive it. She found him in his office hours later, staring at the monitors. On screen, various angles of a warehouse. Empty. Dark. What is that? She asked. Where Victor keeps his imports, drugs mostly, some weapons. Kael didn't look away from the screens. Tomorrow night, while we're at the auction, Sergei's team will hit it. Hard. You're starting a war. I'm finishing one. He finally turned. Victor thinks he can take from me. Thinks he can walk into my home, threaten my wife, and I'll just accept it. He's wrong. The possessive, my wife, sent heat through Alina's chest. And if this goes badly, then we die. But at least Victor knows we died fighting. That's not reassuring. Kael crossed to her. In the office light, his scars were more visible, evidence of every time someone had tried and failed to kill him. I'm not good at reassuring. I'm good at surviving, and I'm going to make damn sure you survive too. Why? The question tore out of her. Why does it matter so much? I'm just some girl who brought you water. Because... Kael stopped, swallowed. When he spoke again, his voice was rougher. Because in 10 years, you're the only person who looked at me and didn't see a monster first. The confession hung between them. Alina's breath caught. I saw the monster, she said softly. I just saw the man too. Kael's hand lifted, cupped her face. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, and she felt the tremor in his fingers. You should run, Alina, while you still can. I'm not running. You're a fool. Then we're both fools. He leaned in, slow, giving her time to pull away. Alina didn't. She met him halfway, and when their lips touched, the world narrowed to that single point of contact. The kiss was nothing like she'd expected. Not demanding, not forceful, just seeking, like he was trying to memorize the shape of her mouth, the taste of her breath. When they broke apart, Kael's forehead rested against hers. "Tomorrow," he said quietly. "When we walk into that auction, there's no going back. Victor will know. Everyone will know. This stops being a marriage of convenience and becomes something real." "It already is real," Alina whispered. His eyes closed. "God help us both." The dress was crimson silk that clung like sin. Alina stared at herself in the mirror, hair swept up, makeup dramatic, the ring on her finger catching light like a promise or a threat. She looked like Kael's wife. She looked like someone who could walk into a syndicate auction and not flinch. She looked like someone she didn't recognize. Vera appeared in the doorway. "The car is ready." "Where's Kael?" Dealing with last-minute details. Vera's expression softened fractionally. "Are you sure about this?" Alina met her eyes in the mirror. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Brave or stupid? Probably both. Vera almost smiled. "You'll do." They rode down in silence. The lobby was empty except for Kael's security. 6 men in black suits, earpieces, guns hidden but present. They nodded as Alina passed. Outside, the car waited. Black, armored, windows tinted dark enough to hide sins. The driver opened the door and Kael emerged from the other side. He wore a tuxedo that should have been illegal, black on black, perfectly tailored, making him look like violence wrapped in elegance. When he saw her, he stopped. Just stopped and stared. "You'll do," he said finally, echoing Vera. "High praise." "I don't give empty compliments." He offered his hand. "Ready?" Alina took it. His fingers closed around hers, warm, strong, steady, despite everything. "No, but let's go anyway." They drove through the city in silence. Kael's thumb traced patterns on her palm, absent and hypnotic. Alina watched the lights blur past and tried not to think about Agent Morris's warning. It will come back, and when it does, I'll be there to pick up the pieces. The auction was held in the Grand Bellevue. Old money, older secrets. Valets took the car. Security checked invitations. And then they were inside, surrounded by crystal and champagne and people wearing smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Alina felt every gaze that landed on her, felt the whispers start, spreading like fire. That's her. Draven's wife, the girl from nowhere. Kael's hand settled on her lower back, possessive and grounding. "Breathe," he murmured. "I'm breathing." "You're holding it. Breathe." She did, slow and deliberate. The room came back into focus. And that's when she saw him. Viktor Arseniev stood across the ballroom, champagne in hand, surrounded by men who looked like they crushed bones for cardio. He was older than his photos, silver hair, sharp suit, eyes like frozen lakes. He smiled when he saw them, raised his glass in a mock toast. Kael's hand tightened on Alina's back. "Stay close." "What's he doing?" "Testing, seeing if we'll approach or retreat." "What do we do?" Kael's jaw set. "We advance." He guided her through the crowd, past senators and CEOs and people who controlled empires from the shadows. Every step felt like walking a tightrope. Every smile felt like a knife. Viktor didn't move, just waited, predator patient, as they closed the distance. "Kael," he said when they were close enough. His accent was thick, Russian vowels wrapped around English consonants. "What a pleasant surprise." "Viktor." Kael's tone was neutral, dead. "Enjoying the evening?" "Very much, and this must be the famous Mrs. Draven." Viktor's gaze slid to Alina, lingering. "Lovely. I see why you were willing to break tradition." "Tradition is overrated," Kael said. "Is it?" Viktor's smile sharpened. "I find tradition comforting, reliable. It tells us who we are, what we're capable of." He paused. "What we're willing to sacrifice." The threat was subtle but clear. Alina felt it like a blade against her throat. "I sacrifice nothing," Kael said quietly. "I protect what's mine." "Ah, yes. Protection." Viktor's expression turned thoughtful. "Tell me, how is your sister? Irina, yes? I hear she's been quite busy lately." Kael went very still. "Leave her out of this." "Out of what?" "I'm simply making conversation." Victor sipped his champagne. Though I did hear about a most unfortunate incident last night. Power outage, confused security. Such a shame. Accidents happen. Indeed they do. Victor's eyes glittered. Especially to those who overextend themselves, who claim more territory than they can hold, who mistake temporary alliances for permanent shields. He looked directly at Alina when he said it. Kael's hand moved to her waist, pulling her closer. The message was clear. She's mine. Touch her and die. Victor laughed, low, genuine. You always were predictable, Kael. It's your greatest weakness. And you always talk too much. It's yours. The two men stared at each other. Around them, the party continued. Music, laughter, the clink of glasses. But in their small circle, the air crackled with violence barely leashed. Enjoy the auction, Victor said finally. I hear there are some fascinating pieces up for bid tonight. He leaned in, voice dropping. Though nothing as valuable as what I plan to acquire soon. He walked away, bodyguards forming a wall around him. Kael didn't move for 3 full seconds. Then he exhaled slowly, hand trembling against Alina's waist. We need to leave, he said. What? Why? Because I'm about 5 seconds from killing him in front of 200 witnesses. Kael turned, guiding her toward the exit. And that would complicate things. They were halfway to the door when Alina saw her. A woman, mid-20s, blonde, standing near the bar, watching them with an expression that made Alina's stomach drop. Recognition. The woman moved forward, intercepting them. Kael. Kael stopped. Every muscle in his body went taut. Natasha. It's been a long time. Natasha's smile was brittle. You look well, considering. Considering what? Considering you stole my fiancé and got him killed. Her eyes, blue, empty, shifted to Alina. And now you've found a replacement. How efficient. Alina's breath caught. What is she talking about? Kael's expression was carved from stone. Not here. Why not here? Natasha's voice rose. She deserves to know who she married, what you did. Natasha. His name was Dmitri. Natasha ignored Kael, speaking directly to Alina. Dmitri Volkov, Victor's son. Kael promised him protection if he defected, promised him safety, and 3 months later, Dmitri was dead, shot execution style in an alley because someone leaked his location. Alina felt the world tilt. Kael? It wasn't like that, he said, voice low. Then how was it? Natasha demanded. Tell her. Tell your new wife how you get people killed. The ballroom had gone quiet. Every eye was on them now. Victor watched from across the room, expression satisfied. This was the real test, not the conversation. This. Kael met Alina's gaze. We need to leave, now. Not until you explain. There's nothing to explain. Dmitri defected. Someone betrayed him. He died. I didn't pull the trigger. But you might as well have, Natasha hissed. And now you've trapped another girl in your war. How long until she ends up like Dmitri? Like all the others you've burned through? Alina's pulse roared in her ears. The room spun. Every fear she'd buried came flooding back. You don't know him. He's a monster. He'll get you killed. Kael's hand touched her arm. Alina, look at me. She did. Saw the exhaustion, the guilt, the truth he'd been carrying for a decade. Please, he said quietly. Trust me. It was the please that decided it. Alina turned to Natasha. I'm sorry for your loss, but Kael isn't the man who killed your fiancé. How would you know? You've known him, 2 weeks? Long enough to know he doesn't leave people behind. Alina took Kael's hand, laced their fingers together. Now, if you'll excuse us. She walked out, pulling Kael with her. Behind them, the whispers exploded. They didn't speak until they were in the car, doors closed, city sliding past. Then Kael said, Thank you. Don't. Alina's voice shook. Don't thank me. Just tell me the truth, all of it. Did you get Dmitri killed? Kael's jaw worked. I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He turned to her, and she saw the fracture in his armor. I offered Dmitri protection. I meant it. But someone in my organization leaked his location to Victor. I spent 3 years hunting for the mole. Never found them. So it could happen again. Yes. It could happen to me. Yes. No hesitation, no comfort, just brutal honesty. Alina's chest ached. Then why keep me here? Why marry me if I'm just going to end up like Dimitri? Because Kael stopped, started again. Because I'm selfish. Because I saw you, and for the first time in 10 years, I wanted something that wasn't about survival or empire or revenge. I wanted you, and I took you, and I'm sorry. The apology gutted her. I should hate you, Alina whispered. You should. I should demand you let me go. You should. She turned to him. But I'm not going to. Kael's eyes closed. Why? Because you're not the only selfish one. Alina reached up, touched his face, stubble rough under her fingers. Because I'm tired of running from things that scare me. And you terrify me, Kael Draven. But I'm staying anyway. When he kissed her this time, it wasn't seeking. It was drowning, desperate. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer like she was oxygen and he'd been suffocating. Alina kissed back just as hard, tasting whiskey and want and something that felt dangerously close to... The car exploded. Not their car. The one in front of them. Fire bloomed, metal shrieked, and their driver swerved hard. Alina slammed into Kael, his arms wrapping around her as the world turned to chaos. Gunfire, shattering glass, voices shouting. Kael shoved her down, covering her body with his. Stay down! The car skidded, hit something, stopped. Silence, sudden and absolute. Then the door ripped open. A man stood there, masked, armed. He pointed his gun directly at Alina's head. Out, he ordered. Both of you, hands where I can see them. Kael moved slowly, hands raised, positioning himself between Alina and the gunman. Let her go. This is between me and Victor. Victor doesn't want her dead. The man's accent was thick, Eastern European. He wants her alive, for now. For what? The man smiled behind his mask. For trade. They were hauled out of the car into a street-turned war zone. 3 vehicles, all smoking, all destroyed. Bodies on the pavement. Kael's security, dead or dying. Alina's mind stuttered over the carnage. This wasn't a threat. This wasn't a test. This was an execution. More men appeared, 8, maybe 10. They surrounded Kael and Alina, guns trained, a perimeter of death. And then Victor stepped out of a black sedan, unhurried, champagne still in hand. Kael, he said pleasantly, we really must stop meeting like this. Kael said nothing, just stood there, bleeding from a new cut on his forehead, hands still raised, eyes calculating. Here is how this will proceed, Victor continued. You will come with me, voluntarily, and in exchange, your lovely wife goes free. No, Kael said immediately. I wasn't asking. Victor's expression hardened. You stole my son. Now I'm collecting interest. Come quietly, or I will have my men shoot her in front of you. Then I'll take you anyway. Alina's heart slammed against her ribs. Kael, don't. It's fine. His voice was steady, calm, the voice he used when lying. It's going to be fine. It's not fine. He's going to kill you. Probably. Kael turned to her, and she saw the goodbye in his eyes. But at least you'll be safe. I don't want to be safe. I want you alive. Victor laughed. How touching. Young love. Last chance, Kael, one of the gunmen said. Clock's ticking. Kael looked at Alina, really looked, like he was memorizing her face. Then he stepped forward, hands out, surrendering. No! Alina lunged for him, but 2 men grabbed her, held her back. Kael, don't do this! He didn't look back, just walked toward Victor's car, spine straight, shoulders squared, like a man going to his execution. Victor followed, pausing beside Alina. I'll send you the body when I'm done with it. He smiled. Consider it a wedding gift. They shoved Kael into the car. The doors slammed. The engine roared. And then they were gone, leaving Alina on her knees in the middle of the street, surrounded by corpses and wreckage and the shattering realization that she'd just watched her husband die. The street was silent except for the crackle of fire and the wet sound of someone dying 3 feet away. Alina knelt on asphalt that still held warmth from the explosion, her dress torn at the hem, knees scraped raw. The men who'd held her had vanished the moment Victor's car turned the corner, ghosts who'd done their job and disappeared into the city's shadows. She couldn't move, couldn't think past the image of Kael walking toward that car, hands raised, spine straight like he was attending a business meeting instead of his own execution. "I'll send you the body when I'm done with it," Victor's voice echoed in her skull. Casual, amused, like Kael was a package to be delivered, not a man who played piano at 2 a.m. and remembered her food orders and kissed her like she was the only thing keeping him human. A hand touched her shoulder. Alina jerked back, vision blurring, and found Vera crouched beside her. The woman's face was smeared with blood. Not hers, from the look of it, and her gun was still in her hand. "We need to move," Vera said. No emotion, just fact. "They took him." Alina's voice came out broken, foreign. "I know. We have to—" "What? Chase them? Storm Victor's compound with nothing but rage and a torn dress? We have to get him back." Vera's expression didn't change. "Stand up." "What?" "Stand up!" Vera gripped Alina's arm, hauled her to her feet. "You can fall apart later. Right now, you move or you die." The bluntness cut through the shock. Alina stumbled forward, legs shaking, as Vera guided her toward a car that had somehow survived the ambush. The driver was slumped over the wheel, neck at an angle that meant death. Vera shoved the body into the passenger seat without ceremony and slid behind the wheel. "Get in." Alina climbed into the back. The leather was sticky with something she didn't want to identify. Around them, sirens wailed, distant but getting closer. Police. Ambulances. People who would ask questions Alina couldn't answer. Vera drove like she was fleeing hell itself. The city blurred past. Lights, buildings, people who didn't know that somewhere in the darkness, a man was being tortured for the crime of noticing the wrong woman. "Where are we going?" Alina asked. "Safe house. Irina's there." Irina. Kael's sister, the woman who'd looked at Alina with pity and called this inevitable. "Does she know?" "She will." Vera's hands were white-knuckled on the wheel. "She always knows." They drove in silence. Alina stared at her hands, scraped, bloody, the wedding ring catching streetlight like an accusation. 2 weeks ago, she'd been nobody. Dispatch operator, invisible, safe. Now she was Mrs. Draven. Target, widow. No, not widow. Not yet. He's not dead. Can't be dead. But the certainty felt hollow. Victor hadn't taken Kael for conversation. He'd taken him for revenge. For the son Kael had stolen, the empire Kael had threatened, the decade of humiliation that needed blood to balance. The safe house was a brownstone in a neighborhood Alina didn't recognize. Vera pulled into an alley, killed the engine, and sat for 3 seconds with her eyes closed. "Are you hurt?" Alina asked. "No." "The blood isn't mine." Vera opened her eyes. 3 of my team are dead, 4 more wounded. This was a coordinated strike, professional. They knew our route, our timing, our security protocols. The words settled like lead in Alina's stomach. "How?" "That's what we're going to find out." Vera got out, gestured for Alina to follow. Inside, the brownstone was sparse. Functional. Irina sat at a kitchen table surrounded by laptops and phones, her blonde hair tied back, eyes red-rimmed but dry. She looked up when they entered and said one word. "Where?" "Victor has him," Vera replied. "Taken from the ambush site 40 minutes ago." Irina's jaw tightened. "Alive?" "For now. For now isn't good enough." Irina stood, paced to the window, back again. Her movements were tight, controlled, like she was holding herself together through sheer force of will. "How many men?" 10 at the site. Probably more waiting wherever they took him. "And our people?" "Scattered, regrouping. Sergei's team hit the warehouse as planned, but..." Vera hesitated. "They found it empty. No drugs, no weapons, nothing." Irina went very still. "Empty. Cleaned out, like someone warned them." The 2 women looked at each other. Some silent conversation passed between them, heavy with implications Alina didn't understand. "Say it," Irina said quietly. "We have a leak." "We've had a leak for 10 years. This is different." Irina's gaze shifted to Alina. "How much do you know about Dmitry Volkov?" The name hit like a fist. Alina sank into a chair, exhausted and raw. Natasha mentioned him. Victor's son. Kael offered him protection, and he died anyway. That's the sanitized version. Irina pulled up a chair, sat. Here's the truth. Dmitri came to Kael 3 months after Victor started expanding into weapons trafficking. Said he wanted out, wanted to defect. Kael was suspicious, Victor's son showing up out of nowhere, offering intelligence. It screamed trap. But he took the deal anyway, Alina said. Not right away. He vetted Dmitri for weeks, tested him, put him through scenarios designed to expose a double agent. Dmitri passed every test. Irina's expression was grim. So Kael brought him in, gave him a new identity, a safe house, protection detail. For 3 months, Dmitri fed us information that dismantled half of Victor's operation. And then? And then someone put a bullet in his head while he was buying groceries. Irina leaned back. Kael spent years hunting for the leak, interrogated everyone who had access to Dmitri's location, tore apart his own organization looking for the mole, found nothing. Vera crossed her arms. Because the mole was better than us. Or the mole was one of us, Irina said. Someone Kael trusted too much to suspect. The implication hung in the air. Alina's mind raced through possibilities, landing on the worst one. You think someone in Kael's inner circle is working for Victor? I think someone has been feeding Victor information for a decade. And tonight's ambush, the timing, the precision, that wasn't luck. Irina's eyes were hard. That was inside knowledge. Alina thought about the FBI showing up at the penthouse, about Daniel Cross knowing exactly when to strike, about the warehouse being empty when Sergei's team arrived. How many people knew about tonight? She asked. 6, Vera said. Kael, me, Irina, Sergei, and 2 drivers. And me, Alina added. Irina's gaze sharpened. You didn't know the route, didn't know the timing. You were just there. So were you. I've been with Kael since we were kids. I'm not the leak. And I've been with him for 2 weeks. I'm definitely not the leak. Alina's voice rose. So who does that leave? Silence. Then Vera said quietly, Sergei. Irina's head snapped toward her. No. He's been with Kael for 8 years. He had access to Dmitri's location. He knew tonight's route, the warehouse plan, everything. Sergei would die for Kael. People said the same thing about Dmitri. Vera's tone was flat. And look how that ended. Irina stood, paced again. Her hands were shaking, barely visible, but there. If it's Sergei, then we've lost. Victor will know every move we make before we make it. Then we don't tell Sergei, Alina said. Both women looked at her. We don't tell anyone, Alina continued, the plan forming as she spoke. We find out where Victor's holding Kael, we go in, and we don't involve anyone who might be compromised. That's suicide, Irina said. Victor's compound is a fortress, armed guards, surveillance, kill zones, designed specifically to stop rescue attempts. Even with Kael's full team, we'd be outgunned. So we don't go in guns blazing. Alina stood, ignoring the protest from her scraped knees. We go in quiet, smart. We use Victor's arrogance against him. How? He thinks I'm helpless, thinks I'm just some girl Kael picked up. He offered me a deal, disappear, get money, live. Alina met Irina's eyes. What if I take it? Understanding dawned on Irina's face. You want to offer yourself up. I want to trade me for Kael. Victor won't go for it. He has what he wants. Does he? Alina's mind was racing now, adrenaline clearing the shock. He has Kael, but he doesn't have closure. He doesn't have the thing that will hurt Kael most, watching me die. Vera made a sound, half laugh, half disbelief. You're suggesting we deliver you to Victor so he can kill you in front of Kael. I'm suggesting we make Victor think that's what's happening. Alina turned to Irina. You said Kael spent years looking for the leak. Did he keep records, evidence, names of people he suspected? Yes. Why? Because if there's a leak, there's proof. Something Kael found but couldn't act on without tipping them off. Alina's hands were steady now, purpose replacing panic. We find that proof. We find out who betrayed Dmitri, and we use it as leverage. Irina stared at her. You've been married to my brother for 2 weeks, and you're already thinking like him. I'm thinking like someone who has nothing left to lose. Alina's voice cracked. He walked into that car knowing he was going to die. The least I can do is make sure it wasn't for nothing. The room fell silent. Outside, the city hummed, oblivious, uncaring. Inside, 3 women stood at a crossroads between revenge and rescue, sanity and suicide. Finally, Irina nodded. Kael's files are at the main office. Encrypted server, air-gapped from the network. Only he has access. Can you bypass it? Given time, yes. Irina checked her watch. But we don't have time. Victor will move Kael once he's done interrogating him. Could be hours, could be minutes. Then we split up, Alina said. Vera, you work on finding Victor's location. Irina, you crack that server. You'll stay here, Irina interrupted. You're not trained, you're a liability. I'm the only card we have that Victor doesn't expect. Alina's jaw set. And I'm not sitting in a safe house while Kael dies. Irina studied her. You love him. It wasn't a question, but Alina answered anyway. I don't know. Maybe. But I'm not losing him to find out. Something shifted in Irina's expression. Respect, maybe. Or pity. Fine. But you follow orders. No heroics. No stupid decisions. Agreed. Vera's phone buzzed. She checked it, frowned. Sergey's asking for our location. What did you tell him? Irina asked. Nothing yet. Keep it that way. Irina grabbed her jacket. We move now. Vera, track Victor's cars from the ambush site. Alina, you're with me. They moved. The main office was downtown, 20 floors of glass and steel that housed Kael's legitimate businesses. Import, export, real estate, investments that looked clean on paper but funded the empire beneath. Irina swiped them through security, nodding at guards who asked no questions. The elevator ride was silent. Alina watched the numbers climb and tried not to think about Kael bleeding in some basement, Victor's men taking turns with fists and knives, and worse. Kael's office was on the 20th floor, corner suite. Windows that showed the whole city spread out like a circuit board. Alina had never been here, hadn't even known it existed. Irina went straight to the desk, pulled up a section of flooring to reveal a hidden server. This is going to take a while. How long? Best case? 30 minutes? Worst case? Irina didn't finish the sentence. Alina paced to the windows. Below, the city glittered, thousands of lives intersecting, oblivious to the war happening in the cracks. She pressed her hand against the glass, felt the cold seep through her palm. Where are you, Kael? Found something, Irina said. Alina turned. Irina's face was pale, illuminated by the server screen. What is it? A file, labeled Dmitri Investigation. Irina scrolled through data. Names, dates, surveillance logs. Kael documented everything. Who's the leak? Irina went very still. Oh no. What? Who is it? Irina turned the screen. On it a photo. Vera, standing outside a warehouse, talking to a man Alina didn't recognize. The timestamp was 3 days before Dmitri died. No, Alina breathed. That's impossible. Vera's been with us since the beginning, since before Dmitri. Irina's voice was hollow. She was Kael's first hire, his most trusted lieutenant. Alina's mind rejected it. Vera had saved her tonight, had driven her to safety, had been alone with Kael's security protocols for 10 years, had known tonight's route, had survived the ambush without a scratch. We need to call her, Alina said. Warn her that we know. We need to run. Irina slammed the server closed. If Vera's the leak, she knows we're here. She's probably already... The office door opened. Vera stood there, gun in hand. Behind her, 3 men in tactical gear, not Kael's people. Victor's. I'm sorry, Vera said, and she sounded like she meant it. They were zip-tied to chairs in Kael's own office. Poetic, in a way that made Alina want to laugh or scream, or both. The men stood guard while Vera made a phone call, speaking in Russian too quick for Alina to follow. Irina sat perfectly still, eyes locked on Vera. How long? Vera ended the call. How long what? How long have you been Victor's? Since the beginning. No hesitation, no shame. Since before I met Kael. The confession hit like a physical blow. Alina watched Irina's face go blank, the same expression Kael wore when he was locking down emotion. Victor planted you, Irina said. Victor recruited me when I was 16, trained me, gave me a purpose. Vera sat on the edge of Kael's desk. When Kael started building his empire, Victor sent me in, told me to get close, earn his trust. And Dmitri? Was a test. Victor wanted to see if Kael would take the bait. When he did, Vera shrugged. I provided the location. Victor's men did the rest. You killed him, Alina said, voice shaking. You killed Dmitri and let Kael think he'd failed. I did my job. Vera's expression was stone. Just like I'm doing now. What job? Irina demanded. We're already caught. Victor has Kael. What more does he want? Vera's phone buzzed. She checked it, smiled faintly. He wants an audience. One of the guards cut their zip ties, hauled them to their feet. They were marched to the elevator, down to the basement garage where 2 black SUVs waited. Where are we going? Alina asked. Vera didn't answer, just shoved her into the second vehicle and climbed in beside her. They drove through the city, away from downtown toward the industrial district where warehouses crouched like sleeping giants. Alina tried to memorize the route, but exhaustion and fear made everything blur together. Finally, they stopped. The warehouse was nondescript. Corrugated metal walls, no windows, a single rolling door that opened as they approached. Inside, the space was cavernous, empty except for a chair in the center, illuminated by a single overhead light. Kael sat in that chair. Alina's breath stopped. He was alive. Bloody, beaten, but alive. His face was a mess, split lip, swollen eye, bruises darkening along his jaw. His shirt was gone, revealing more injuries, burns, cuts, the bandage from his ribs torn away to show fresh blood, but his eyes were open, focused. And when he saw Alina, something in them broke. No, he said. Just that one word, rough and desperate. No, not her. Victor emerged from the shadows, clapping slowly, touching. Even now he thinks he can protect you. Alina was shoved forward. She stumbled, caught herself, and stood 3 feet from Kael, close enough to see the damage, close enough to smell blood and sweat and fear. You shouldn't have come, Kael said. I didn't have a choice. Alina's eyes stung. Vera brought us. Understanding flickered across Kael's face. Vera. Hello, Kael, Vera said from behind Alina. It's been a long time coming. Kael's gaze shifted to her. How much? How much what? How much did he pay you to destroy 10 years of loyalty? Vera's expression didn't change. He didn't pay me anything. I was never loyal to you. I was loyal to him. The revelation settled over Kael like a shroud. Alina watched him process it. The betrayal, the scope of it, the realization that every conversation, every plan, every moment of trust had been a lie. Dmitri, he said quietly, was Victor's son in my mission. You made it easy, honestly, so eager to believe in redemption. Vera stepped closer. Did you really think Victor would let you steal from him without consequences? I didn't steal. I offered refuge. You offered false hope. And when Dmitri died, you blamed yourself instead of looking at the person standing beside you the whole time. Vera's voice was almost gentle. That's your weakness, Kael. You see the best in people, even when they don't deserve it. Victor moved into the light. Enough philosophy, let's get to business. He gestured to his men. Bring the girl. Hands grabbed Alina. She fought, useless, reflexive, but they dragged her forward and forced her to her knees beside Kael's chair. Here's what happens now, Victor said. You both die. But first, you watch each other break. I want you to understand, Kael. Everything you built, everyone you trusted, it was all a lie. Your empire is ash. Your love is a joke, and your death will be slow enough that you'll beg for it. Kael's hands were zip-tied to the chair arms. He pulled against them, blood running down his wrists. Let her go. This is between us. No, this is about consequences. Victor crouched beside Alina. Tell me, girl, do you regret it? Saying no to Daniel's offer? You could be free right now, safe. Alina met his eyes. Go to hell. Victor laughed. Eventually. But first, he pulled a knife. Let's see how long it takes before Kael stops loving you. The knife moved toward Alina's face, and Kael went wild. Kael saw. He thrashed against the restraints, chair rocking, tendons standing out on his neck. Stop! Victor, please! Take me! Do whatever you want! Just let her go! There it is, Victor said softly. The begging. I've waited 10 years to hear it. The knife touched Alina's cheek, cold, sharp. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Wait. Everyone turned. Irina stood in the doorway, hands raised. You want consequences, Victor? Let's talk about your son. Victor's expression went dark. Careful, girl. Dmitri didn't want to defect, Irina's voice carried across the warehouse. He wanted to destroy you. That's why he came to Kael, not for protection, but for weapons, for connections. He was planning a coup. Lies. I have the emails, the bank transfers, everything Dmitri hid from you because he knew you'd kill him for it. Irina pulled out a phone. Want to see? Victor's hand trembled. Show me. Irina approached slowly, handed over the phone. Victor scrolled through it, face going pale. No, he whispered. This is fabricated. It's real. Dmitri hated you, hated what you'd turned him into. He was going to take your empire and burn it down. Irina's smile was cold. Kael didn't kill your son, Victor. You did, by being the kind of father worth betraying. For 5 seconds, the warehouse was silent. Then Victor screamed. He lunged at Irina, knife raised. But Irina was faster. She dropped, rolled, and came up with a gun pulled from an ankle holster. The shot was deafening. Victor staggered back, hand pressed to his shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. Chaos erupted. Victor's men opened fire. Irina dove behind a crate. Vera pulled her own weapon, but her aim was split, protect Victor or kill Irina. In the confusion, Alina grabbed the knife Victor had dropped, sawed through Kael's zip ties with shaking hands. Can you walk? She asked. Kael stood, stumbled, caught himself. Define walk. Fast enough to not die. Then yes. He grabbed her hand. Run. They ran. Behind them, gunfire echoed. Irina shouted something in Russian. Vera returned fire. But Alina didn't look back. She just followed Kael through the warehouse, weaving between crates and machinery toward a fire exit that glowed red in the darkness. They burst into an alley. Cold air. Rain that had started falling without Alina noticing. Kael collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. We need to move. Where? Anywhere. Everywhere. Victor's organization will hunt us. Vera knows all our safe houses. He looked at her, and she saw the despair in his eyes. We've lost, Alina. Everything. We're alive. For now. Alina grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Then we use for now. We disappear. We rebuild. We figure out who we can trust and we burn the rest to the ground. You should run, Kael said. Get as far from me as possible. I'm done running. Her hands were steady now, clear. You're stuck with me, Draven, for better or worse. Isn't that what the vows said? Kael's laugh was broken. We didn't say vows. We barely said, I do. Then let's say them now. Alina leaned in, pressed her forehead to his. I, Alina Varelli, take you, Kael Draven, psychopath, crime lord, and the most frustrating man I've ever met, to be my partner in this absolute disaster. Until death, or Victor, whichever comes first. His hand touched her cheek. That's the worst vow I've ever heard. Say it back anyway. Kael stopped. His expression shifted. Alina, move. What? He shoved her aside. The bullet hit him instead. Kael went down, red blooming across his chest, high, near the shoulder, but too much blood. Too fast. Vera stood at the alley entrance, gun raised. I'm sorry, she said again, but this is how it has to end. She aimed for Alina, and Irina shot her from behind. Vera dropped, gun clattering to the pavement. Irina emerged from the warehouse, limping, bleeding from a graze on her arm. Is he alive? She asked. Alina knelt beside Kael. His eyes were open but unfocused. Blood poured from the wound, too much to stop with just her hands. Stay with me, she begged. Kael, stay with me. His lips moved. She leaned closer. Run, he whispered. Before Victor. No, I'm not leaving you. Alina pressed her hands against the wound. Blood seeped through her fingers, hot and relentless. Irina, we need a hospital. Hospitals mean questions. Questions mean police. Irina crouched beside them, assessing. I have a doctor, 20 minutes away, but we need to move him now. He'll bleed out in 20 minutes. Then we have a problem. Alina looked down at Kael, at the man who'd destroyed her life and saved it in the same breath, who'd married her in a cold ceremony and kissed her like she was oxygen, who was dying in a dirty alley because he'd shoved her out of the way. Tell me what to do, she said. Irina stripped off her jacket, wadded it against the wound. Apply pressure. Don't stop, no matter what. I'll get the car. She disappeared. Alina pressed down, ignoring Kael's gasp of pain. Stay awake, talk to me. About what? His voice was fading. Anything. The piano. Why Debussy? Sad. Kael's hand found hers. Everything he wrote sounds like goodbye. This isn't goodbye. Alina, no. She pressed harder, blood everywhere. On her hands, her dress, the ground. You don't get to die. Not after dragging me into this. Not after making me care. His eyes focused on her face. You care? I'm terrified I might love you, you idiot, so you don't get to leave. Her voice broke. Please, please don't leave. Kael's thumb brushed her wrist. If I don't make it, you will. If I don't, there's a key. Hidden panel in the piano. It opens a safe deposit box. Everything you need. Money, documents, new identity. Take it, disappear. I'm not disappearing. Promise me. No. Alina, I said no. She leaned down, kissed him, rough, desperate, tasting blood and rain and fear. You're going to live. We're going to figure this out. And then you're going to play me that stupid sad piano music and tell me why you really noticed me. Kael's smile was faint, fading. You were the only real thing in a room full of ghosts. His eyes closed. Kael, Kael! A car screeched into the alley. Irina jumped out, threw open the back door. Get him in! Together they lifted him, dead weight, terrifyingly limp. Laid him across the back seat. Alina climbed in, cradling his head in her lap, hands still pressed to the wound even though the jacket was soaked through. Irina drove like she was outrunning death itself. Maybe she was. Alina stared down at Kael's face, pale, still, the bruises standing out stark against his skin. She thought about the wedding dress and the pad thai, and the moment 2 weeks ago when her life had split into before and after. She thought about Victor's knife and Vera's betrayal, and the way Kael had begged for her life even while dying himself. She thought about the vows they'd never said and the future they'd probably never have. And she made a decision. If Kael died, she wouldn't run. She wouldn't disappear. She would burn Victor's empire to ash and dance in the ruins. But first she had to make sure he lived long enough to see it. Don't you dare, she whispered. Don't you dare leave me to do this alone. Kael didn't answer. The city blurred past, and in the back seat of a stolen car, covered in blood that wasn't hers, Alina Varelli, dispatch operator, accidental wife, and the most dangerous thing Viktor Arseniev had ever underestimated, held on. Mustn't. The doctor's name was Chen, and he worked out of a veterinary clinic in Chinatown that smelled like disinfectant and wet dog. He took one look at Kael, laid out on a metal examination table meant for German shepherds, and said 3 words. He needs surgery. So do it, Alina said. Chen's eyes moved to her, still in the red dress, now ruined with blood and rain, hair plastered to her face. I'm a veterinarian, and he's bleeding out. So unless you have a better option, start cutting. Chen looked at Irina, who nodded once. Then he sighed, pulled on gloves, and went to work. Alina stood against the wall, unable to look away as Chen cut into Kael's shoulder, probing for the bullet. The wound was high, missed the lung, Chen muttered, but clipped the subclavian artery. That's where the blood was coming from, pulsing with each weakening heartbeat. Kael was unconscious, had been since the car. His chest still rose and fell, but shallow, irregular. He's going into shock, Chen said. I need blood. What's his type? Irina checked her phone. A B negative. Of course it is. Rarest type. Chen cursed in Mandarin. I don't keep human blood here. Then use mine, Alina said. What's your type? Oh, negative. Universal donor. Chen paused. You sure? Do I look unsure? Alina crossed to the table, rolled up her sleeve. Take what you need. 20 minutes later, she was lightheaded, and Kael's color was marginally better. Chen worked with steady hands, repairing the artery, removing the bullet, stitching layers of tissue. The wound in Kael's chest from the previous night had reopened during the fight. Chen cleaned and resutured that too, muttering about idiots who didn't rest. Will he live? Irina asked. If infection doesn't set in, if he doesn't tear the stitches, if… Chen stripped off his gloves. He needs a hospital. Can't happen. Then he needs rest, antibiotics, monitoring. Chen looked at Alina. And you need to sit down before you pass out. Alina ignored him. She moved to Kael's side, touched his face, still warm, still alive. How long until he wakes up? She asked. Hours, maybe longer. I gave him enough sedative to keep him under while I worked. Chen packed his instruments. Keep the wounds clean, change the dressing twice a day. If he spikes a fever over 101, call me immediately. He left instructions and antibiotics, then disappeared into the night. The clinic fell silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the steady beep of a heart monitor Chen had jury-rigged to Kael's pulse. Irina sank into a chair. We need a plan. We need to kill Victor, Alina said. With what army? Vera was our entire security infrastructure. Every safe house, every contact, every weapons cache. She knew it all. She's probably already passed that information to Victor. Irina's voice was flat, dead. We're done. We're not done until we're dead. Give it time. Alina turned on her. You want to give up? Fine. Run. But I'm staying. To do what? Hold Kael's hand while Victor's men kick down the door? Irina stood, paced. You don't understand what we're up against. Victor's organization is hundreds of people. Soldiers, enforcers, politicians on payroll. Kael spent 10 years building a network to counter that, and it's gone. Burned. We have nothing. We have each other. That's not enough. Then we make it enough. Alina's hands clenched. You said Kael kept files on Dimitri's investigation. What else did he keep? Irina hesitated. What do you mean? 10 years of running an empire. He must have insurance, leverage, things he could use if everything went to hell. Alina stepped closer. Where would he hide it? I don't know. Yes, you do. You're his sister. You know how he thinks. Irina's jaw tightened. There's a storage unit, under a false name. He never told me what was in it, just that it was insurance. Where? Queens, but it's locked with biometric access, fingerprint and retinal scan. We can't get in without Kael, and he's… She gestured to the unconscious man on the table. Alina looked at Kael, at his hand, limp at his side. Then we bring him. He can't be moved. He doesn't have to wake up, just breathe. Alina's mind was racing now, adrenaline overriding exhaustion. We load him in the car, drive to the unit, use his fingerprint and eye scan, get whatever's inside. That's insane. Moving him could restart the bleeding. Staying here guarantees Victor finds us. Alina met Irina's eyes. You said it yourself. Vera knows everything, which means Victor knows Chen, knows this clinic. He's probably already on his way. As if summoned by the words, a phone buzzed. Irina pulled it out, read the message. Her face went pale. What? Alina asked. Sergei. He's asking where we are. Says he wants to help. Sergei, who might also be compromised. Or might be our only ally left. Irina stared at the screen. If he's clean, we need him. If he's not, then we're already dead. And it doesn't matter. Alina moved to Kael, started disconnecting the monitor. Call him. Tell him to meet us at the storage unit. If he's loyal, he'll come alone. If he's not, we'll know by how many men he brings. Irina didn't move for 3 seconds. Then she nodded and made the call. They carried Kael to the car wrapped in blankets that barely hid the bandages. He was heavier than he looked, dead weight that made Alina's arms scream. But she held on, gritting her teeth until they got him stretched across the back seat. The drive to Queens took 40 minutes. Every pothole made Alina's heart stop, waiting for blood to seep through the bandages. But Chen's work held. Kael's breathing stayed steady. The storage facility was industrial. Rows of identical units, security cameras. A night attendant who looked up from his phone long enough to verify they had a key code. Unit 237, at the back, away from the entrance. Irina parked. We wait for Sergei. How long? 20 minutes. If he's not here by then, we go in without him. Alina climbed into the back seat, cradled Kael's head in her lap. His face was peaceful, or empty. She couldn't tell. The bruises had darkened to purple-black, making him look like a painting of violence. I should have taken the deal, she whispered. Back in the penthouse, when Daniel offered me the exit, I should have run. Kael didn't answer. Couldn't. But I didn't, and I don't know if that makes me brave or stupid or just... Her voice cracked. I don't know what I am anymore. 2 weeks ago, I was nobody. Now I'm... What? A widow? A fugitive? The girl who got the king killed? Her hand found his, laced their fingers together. The ring was still there. White gold. Simple. The only thing that felt real. You told me to run if you didn't make it, she continued. Said there was a key in the piano. Money, documents, new identity. But I can't. Even if you die, I can't just walk away because... Headlights cut through the darkness. Alina's hand went to the gun Irina had given her, Vera's gun, taken from the warehouse. She chambered around, watched as a single car pulled up. Black sedan, tinted windows. The driver's door opened. Sergei emerged. Alone. He was compact, muscular, with a shaved head and scars that suggested a violent past. He'd been with Kael for 8 years, Irina said. Right-hand man, enforcer, traitor, maybe. Irina got out of the car. You came. You called. Sergei's accent was thick, Eastern European. Where is Kael? In the car, wounded. How bad? Bad enough. Irina studied him. Did you tell anyone you were coming? Sergei's expression darkened. You think I'm the leak? Vera was the leak, but someone's been feeding Victor information for 10 years. Could be more than one. Could be you, Sergei shot back. How do I know you didn't set this whole thing up? Because I'm Kael's sister. And Vera was his most trusted lieutenant. Loyalty means nothing. Sergei moved closer. Show me Kael. I need to see he's alive. Alina opened the back door. Sergei looked in, took in Kael's condition, and cursed in Russian. Who did this? He asked. Victor. Vera helped. Irina's voice was tight. We're done talking. Either you're with us or you leave. Now. Sergei met her eyes. I'm with you. Always have been. Then help us get into that unit. They moved quickly. Sergei and Irina supported Kael between them, carrying him to Unit 237. Alina held the scanner, biometric lock, industrial grade. She pressed Kael's thumb to the fingerprint reader, green light, then lifted his eyelid, angled his head toward the retinal scanner. The device beeped, processing. Green light. The lock disengaged. Inside, the unit was small, 10 by 10, concrete walls, no windows, and in the center, a safe. Of course, Irina muttered. The safe was old school, combination lock, no biometrics. Anyone know the code? Sergei asked. Alina stared at the dial. Numbers 0 to 99, millions of combinations. Then she remembered. The wedding. Judge Carmichael asking if she took this man. Her saying yes. Kael's response delivered like he was confirming a dental appointment. She spun the dial. April 17th. April 17th. The day they'd married. The safe clicked open. Inside, 3 phones, 2 passports, a manila envelope thick with documents, and a black hard drive. Irina grabbed the hard drive. This is it. This is what Kael was holding back. What's on it? Sergei asked. Insurance. Irina powered on one of the phones. Names, bank accounts, evidence of every dirty deal Victor's made in the past 20 years. Kael's been documenting everything. Why didn't he use it before? Because releasing this would start a war. Every family, every syndicate, every politician on Victor's payroll, they'd all turn on each other trying to cover their tracks. Irina's smile was cold. It would burn the entire underworld to the ground. So we release it, Alina said. It's not that simple. This information is a nuclear option. Once it's out, we can't control what happens. People will die. Innocent people. People are already dying. Alina thought of the bodies on the street, the security guards, Dmitri, everyone who'd been caught in the crossfire of a war they didn't understand. At least this way, Victor goes down with them. Sergei picked up one of the passports. There's 3 of these. Kael was planning escape routes. Or he was planning to disappear us if things went bad. Irina pocketed the hard drive. Either way, we have options now. We can run. Use these identities, take the money, get as far from here as possible. Or, Alina asked, or we finish it. Irina met her eyes. We use this information as bait. Draw Victor out. End this the only way it can end. With one of us dead, Sergei said. With all of us dead, probably. Irina looked at Kael, still unconscious between them. But at least we choose how. Alina thought about the piano and the pad thai and the way Kael had looked at her in his office, hand trembling near her face, like touching her might break him. She thought about Victor's knife and the warehouse and the bullet that should have hit her. She thought about the vows they'd never said and the life they'd never have. We finish it, she said, tongue. They moved Kael to a new location, an apartment Sergei swore Victor didn't know about. 6th floor walk-up in Brooklyn, windows that overlooked a fire escape, 2 exits if things went bad. Chen met them there, checked Kael's vitals, changed the dressing. He's stable, but he needs to wake up soon. The longer he's under, the worse the odds. How do we wake him? Alina asked. You don't. His body will bring him back when it's ready. Chen packed his supplies. Or it won't. After he left, Irina spread the contents of the hard drive across a table. Documents, photos, audio files. A decade of Victor's sins laid bare. This is enough to destroy him, she said, but we need to control the release. Make sure it hits maximum impact. How? Sergei asked. We give it to the FBI, specifically to Agent Morris. Irina pulled out her phone. She's been investigating Kael, which means she's been investigating Victor. She wants arrests, convictions. We give her everything, and Victor's empire crumbles. Victor won't let that happen, Alina said. The moment he knows we have this, he'll come for us. Exactly. Irina's smile was sharp. We use ourselves as bait. Set up a meeting. Tell Victor we're willing to trade, the hard drive for safe passage. He'll agree, because he needs this buried, and when he shows up, we kill him, Sergei finished, or Morris arrests him. Either way, he's done. Alina looked at Kael, at the rise and fall of his chest, the only sign he was still fighting. And if Victor kills us first? Then Morris gets this hard drive anyway. We set up a dead man's switch. If we don't check in every 12 hours, the information goes public. Irina's expression was grim. Victor loses either way. The only question is whether we're alive to see it. The plan was insane. Suicidal. Alina nodded. When? Tomorrow night. Gives us time to set up the meeting, prepare the location, brief Morris. Irina stood, and gives Kael time to wake up. What if he doesn't? Then we do this without him. What could he? Kael woke at 3 a.m. Alina was dozing in a chair beside the bed when she felt him move. Her eyes snapped open to find him staring at the ceiling, disoriented. Hey, she said softly. Welcome back. His head turned, slowly, like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Where? Brooklyn. Safe house. You've been out for 18 hours. Kael's hand went to his shoulder, felt the bandages. Victor is going to die tomorrow night if everything goes according to plan. Alina leaned forward. How do you feel? Like I got shot. You did. Vera put the bullet in you. His eyes closed. Vera was Victor's from the beginning. She killed Dmitri. She's been feeding him information for 10 years. Alina's voice hardened. She's dead now. Irina shot her. Kael processed this in silence. Then, you should have run. We've been through this. I'm not running. Alina, no, listen to me. She gripped his hand. We found your insurance, the hard drive, everything you've been collecting on Victor. We're using it as bait. That's... Kael tried to sit up, gasped, fell back. That's suicide. It's the only play we have left. Alina helped him adjust, propping pillows behind his back. Victor thinks we're scattered, thinks we're weak. We're going to make him believe we're desperate enough to trade the evidence for safe passage. And when he shows up, we end this. With what? We have no team, no weapons, no... We have Sergei. We have Irina. We have you. Alina's jaw set. And we have me. Kael stared at her. You're not a soldier. I'm whatever I need to be to survive. She leaned in close. You turned my life into a war zone. You married me, bled for me, almost died for me. So now I'm returning the favor. We're finishing this together, or not at all. You're insane. I learned from the best. Despite everything, Kael's mouth curved, almost a smile. When? Tomorrow, midnight. Warehouse in Red Hook. Neutral ground Victor's used for trades before. Alina outlined the plan. The dead man's switch, Agent Morris as backup. The positioning. Kael listened, eyes growing sharper as the sedative wore off. It could work. It will work. Or we'll all die. Then we die. Alina's voice didn't waver. But Victor dies too. That's the important part. Kael's hand found her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. How did you get this brave? I married a psychopath. It rubbed off. This time he did smile. Then the smile faded. If this goes bad, if Victor gets the upper hand, you run. Promise me. No? Alina. I said no. We're in this together, all the way. She leaned down, pressed her forehead to his. You don't get to be noble and self-sacrificing. Not anymore. We both live, or we both die trying. Kael's breath shuddered out. You're going to get us killed. Probably. She kissed him, gentle, careful of his injuries. But at least we'll go down fighting. The next day was preparation. Sergei acquired weapons, handguns, tactical knives, body armor that might stop a bullet if they were lucky. Irina met with Agent Morris in a coffee shop, slid the copied hard drive across the table, and explained the terms. You get this, Irina said. Everything you need to dismantle Victor's organization. In exchange, you provide backup tomorrow night. Discreet. You don't move until we signal. Morris turned the drive over in her hands. And if your signal doesn't come, then you release the evidence anyway. Make sure Victor burns, even if we're not there to see it. You understand this is vigilante justice. I should arrest you right now. You should, but you won't. Irina leaned back. Because you want Victor more than you want us, and this is the only way you get him. Morris was silent for a long moment. Then she pocketed the drive. What's the signal? 3 gunshots, evenly spaced. And if I hear more than 3? Then things have gone very bad, and you should come in shooting. Morris nodded. Don't make me regret this. Can't promise that. Back at the safe house, Kael was on his feet, pale, unsteady, but upright. He'd insisted on being part of the final prep, despite Chen's protests. You should be in bed, Alina said. I should be dead. Bed seems like an improvement. Kael studied the warehouse layout Sergei had pulled up. Victor will bring at least 20 men, probably more. We're counting on it, Sergei said. More men means more chaos, harder for him to control the situation. Or easier for him to kill us. Always the optimist. Kael looked at each of them, Irina, Sergei, Alina. Last chance to walk away. I won't think less of anyone who does. No one moved. Right, Kael said. Then let's go over it again. Timing has to be perfect. They ran through the plan 3 more times. Positions. Contingencies. What to do if Victor brought a sniper? What to do if he didn't come at all? What to do if everything went to hell? By the time the sun set, Alina's hands were steady and her mind was clear. She'd crossed some threshold in the past 48 hours. Fear had burned away, leaving only purpose. She was going to kill Viktor Arseniev, or die trying. Either way, this ended tonight. The warehouse in Red Hook was abandoned, concrete floors, broken windows, shadows thick enough to hide an army. Sergei had arrived early, set up their positions, checked sight lines. Alina stood in the center of the space, under a single overhead light, holding the original hard drive. The bait. Kael was hidden behind a pillar 20 feet away, rifle in hand despite his injuries. Alina was in the rafters, sniper position. Sergei covered the east entrance. And somewhere outside, Agent Morris waited with a tactical team, ready to move on signal. Midnight came. Headlights cut through the darkness. 3 cars. Black, expensive, bulletproof. Victor emerged from the center vehicle, flanked by 12 men in tactical gear. He walked slowly, confidently, a man who'd already won and was just here to collect his prize. "Mrs. Draven," he called out, "so good of you to accept my invitation." "Your invitation?" Alina's voice echoed. "I invited you." Semantics. Victor stopped 10 feet away. "You have something of mine." Alina held up the hard drive. 10 years of evidence. Every deal, every bribe, every body, it's all here. "And you're willing to trade it for what? Your life?" "For everyone's lives. Mine, Kael's, Irina's, Sergei's. We walk away, you get this, and we all pretend the past 2 weeks never happened." Victor's smile was cold. "Tempting, but I have a counteroffer." He snapped his fingers. 2 of his men dragged forward a figure, beaten, bloodied, barely conscious. Alina's heart stopped. "Agent Morris." "I found your insurance policy," Victor said. "Your FBI backup. Took some effort, she's quite resilient, but everyone breaks eventually." Morris's head lifted. Her face was a mess. Broken nose, split lip, one eye swollen shut. But the other eye locked onto Alina, and she mouthed 2 words. "Shoot him. Here's my offer," Victor continued. "You give me the drive. I kill you quickly, painlessly, and I let your friends live." He pulled a gun, pressed it to Morris's temple. "Or you try to be clever, and I kill her first. Then I hunt down Kael, Irina, and Sergei, and I make their deaths last days." Alina's mind raced. The plan was falling apart. Without Morris, they had no backup. No guarantee the evidence would go public. "Clock's ticking," Victor said. Alina looked at the hard drive in her hand, thought about everything it represented. 10 years of Kael's life. Proof of Victor's crimes. The one thing that could end this. And she made a decision. "Catch," she said. She threw the drive. Victor's eyes tracked it, hand reaching out, and Alina drew Vera's gun from her waistband and fired. Not at Victor, at the hard drive. The bullet hit dead center. The drive exploded in a shower of plastic and circuitry. Victor's face went white. "What did you—" "Insurance," Alina said. "You really think I'd bring the only copy?" Chaos erupted. Kael opened fire from his position, dropping 2 of Victor's men. Irina's rifle cracked from above, taking out a 3rd. Sergei burst through the east entrance, spraying bullets. Victor dove for cover, dragging Morris with him. His men returned fire, the warehouse filling with the deafening roar of gunfire and ricochets. Alina ran. She zigzagged through the space, bullets chewing up concrete inches from her feet, made it to Kael's position, slid down beside him. "That was the stupidest thing you've ever done," he shouted over the gunfire. "Top 5, maybe." Alina checked her gun. 6 rounds left. "Where's Victor?" "East corner. He's using Morris as a shield. Then we get Morris free." "How?" Alina didn't answer. She just moved. She sprinted along the wall using shadows and pillars for cover. Above, Irina was picking off Victor's men one by one. Professional, efficient. But there were too many. For every one that dropped, another took their place. Alina reached the east corner. Victor was pressed against the wall, gun to Morris's head, eyes wild. "Stop," he shouted. "Stop, or I kill her." The gunfire paused. Eerie silence. "Let her go," Alina said, stepping into view. "This is between us." "Us?" Victor laughed, high, unhinged. "There is no us. You're nothing. A girl who brought water. You think you can stand against me?" "I think I already have." Alina raised her gun. "Dmitri hated you. Vera betrayed you. Your empire is crumbling, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." "I can kill you." "Go ahead." Alina's hands were steady. "But that hard drive you just saw explode? It was a fake. The real one is already with the FBI, already uploaded to servers around the world. In about—" She checked her watch. 3 minutes. Every news outlet in the city gets the files. Your name, your crimes, everything. Victor's face went purple. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Alina stepped closer. You know what your real mistake was? Underestimating me. Thinking I was weak because I was kind, thinking I'd break because I'm not like you. You're nothing like me. No, Alina agreed. I'm worse. Because I don't kill for power or revenge or empire. I kill because you touched what's mine. She fired. The bullet hit Victor's gun arm. He screamed, weapon clattering to the floor. Morris jerked free, stumbling away. Victor clutched his arm, blood seeping through his fingers. You... Kael appeared behind him, rifle barrel pressed to Victor's spine. Hello, Victor, he said quietly. Did you miss me? Victor froze. All around them, Victor's men were down, dead or surrendering. Sergei and Irina emerged from their positions, weapons trained on the survivors. It's over, Kael said. Your organization is finished. Your protection is gone. Every family you've wronged is going to come for blood. He leaned in close. And I'm going to make sure they know where to find you. Victor's breath came in short, panicked gasps. You can't... I already have. Kael stepped back. Alina, the signal. Alina raised her gun and fired 3 shots into the air, evenly spaced. Outside, sirens wailed. Agent Morris staggered forward, pulled out her phone. This is Agent Catherine Morris, FBI. I need immediate backup at Red Hook Warehouse, Pier 41. Multiple suspects in custody. Officer needs medical assistance. She looked at Kael. You're under arrest. I know, Kael said. Morris turned to Victor. You too, though your list of charges is considerably longer. FBI tactical teams poured into the warehouse. Body armor, assault rifles, the full force of federal law. They secured the scene, cuffed Victor's men, called for ambulances. Morris approached Alina. The hard drive. Is it real? Every byte. Alina handed her a second copy, the one they'd actually planned to use. Everything you need to dismantle his empire. And Kael's empire is already dismantled. Alina glanced at Kael, who was being cuffed by 2 agents. He's cooperating, full disclosure, in exchange for immunity for Irina and Sergei. And you? I'm just a girl who married the wrong man. Alina's smile was tired. Or maybe the right one. Hard to tell. Morris studied her. You know I should arrest you too. But you won't, because I'm the one who gave you Victor. Alina turned to leave. We're even, Agent Morris. Don't make me regret that. She walked away before Morris could respond. Outside, the night was cool and clear. The city stretched out beyond the docks, lights and noise and life continuing, oblivious to the war that had just ended. Irina was waiting by a car. Kael? In custody, they'll process him, but Morris will make sure the charges don't stick. He gave her too much leverage. And us? We disappear. New identities, new city. Sergei's already gone. Took one of the passports and left. Irina nodded. And you? Alina looked back at the warehouse, at the agents swarming, the ambulances arriving, the controlled chaos of justice being served. I'm waiting, she said. For what? For Kael. Irina's expression softened. He could be in custody for days. Weeks. Then I'll wait days. Weeks. Alina's jaw set. I didn't go through all this to lose him to paperwork. You really love him. It wasn't a question, but Alina answered anyway. I really do. Irina smiled, sad, understanding. He's lucky. Most people don't get that kind of loyalty. Most people don't take a bullet for someone they barely know. True. Irina opened the car door. I'll be at the Brooklyn safe house for 3 more days. After that, I'm gone. New life, new name. If you need anything before then, I know where to find you. Irina drove away, leaving Alina alone on the dock. She sat on a rusted bollard and watched the FBI work. Watched them load Victor into a transport van, hands cuffed, face defeated. Watched them photograph evidence, take statements, secure the scene. And she waited. Kael emerged 6 hours later as dawn was breaking over the East River. He was pale, exhausted, moving like every step hurt. But he was alive. Free. He stopped when he saw her. You're still here. Where else would I be? Anywhere. Everywhere. Far from me. He crossed to her slowly. Alina, If you apologize one more time, I'm shooting you myself. She stood, met him halfway. We won. Victor's done. The evidence is public. It's over. Is it? The war is. The rest. She touched his face, careful of the bruises. The rest we figure out together. Kael's hand covered hers. I have nothing left. No empire, no organization. Everything I built is gone. Good. It was a shitty empire anyway. Alina leaned in. We start over, clean, legal even. Find out who we are when we're not running for our lives. And if we don't like who that is, then we try again. And again until we get it right. She kissed him, soft, careful, tasting exhaustion and relief, and something that felt dangerously like hope. I choose you, Kael Draven. Not because I have to, not because I'm trapped, but because I want to. Kael's arms wrapped around her, holding on like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. I don't deserve you. No one said you did. Alina pulled back, met his eyes. But you're stuck with me anyway, for better or worse. Isn't that what marriage means? We never said those vows. Then let's say them now. She took his hands. I, Alina Draven, take you, Kael, psychopath, fugitive, and the most complicated man I've ever met, to be my partner. Through war and peace, blood and healing, whatever comes next. Until death. Or longer, if I'm feeling stubborn. Kael's laugh was broken, wet. That's still the worst vow I've ever heard. Your turn. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I, Kael Draven, take you, Alina, the girl who brought me water and gave me hope, to be my partner, my equal, my reason to survive. Through every mistake I'll make, every scar we'll earn, every moment we have left, I choose you. Forever. The city woke around them. Sunlight spilled over buildings, turning the water gold. And on a dock in Red Hook, two people who'd survived the impossible stood together and chose to keep fighting, not for empire, not for revenge, just for each other. And maybe, that was enough. The safe house in Brooklyn became their world for the next 72 hours. Small, contained, a place where the chaos couldn't reach them while the city outside tore itself apart. Victor's arrest made headlines within 6 hours. By noon, every major news outlet was running the story. Crime lord exposed, decades of corruption revealed, federal indictments coming down like rain. The hard drive's contents spread through the city like wildfire, igniting investigations, toppling politicians, sending Victor's associates scrambling for cover, or lawyers, or both. Alina watched it unfold from the apartment window, coffee cooling in her hands. Below, Brooklyn moved through its morning routines. Parents walking kids to school, delivery trucks double parking, street vendors setting up carts. Normal life. The kind she'd almost forgotten existed. Behind her, Kael slept. Finally. Chen had stopped by at dawn, changed his dressings, and delivered a bottle of painkillers with strict instructions about rest and infection and not being an idiot. Kael had taken 2 pills and been unconscious within 20 minutes. Alina had watched him sleep, cataloging the damage. The bruises were fading from purple to yellow-green. The swelling around his eye had gone down enough that he could open it fully. The stitches in his shoulder and ribs were holding, no signs of infection. But it was the scars that transfixed her. Not the new ones. Those would heal, fade to silver lines that marked the past 2 weeks. The old ones. The map of violence written across his skin, evidence of a decade spent surviving things that should have killed him. She traced one while he slept, a long jagged line down his left side that looked like someone had tried to gut him. Her fingers had followed the ridge of scar tissue, and she'd wondered who had done it. When? Whether Kael had killed them for it, whether she should care. The answer she'd realized was complicated. 2 weeks ago, she would have been horrified. Now she just felt tired. War changed people, made them capable of things they'd never imagined, made them understand that survival wasn't about being good. It was about being ruthless enough to see another sunrise. Kael stirred, opened his eyes, found her at the window. You should be sleeping, he said, voice rough. Someone has to keep watch. For what? Victor's in federal custody. His organization is scattered. We're safe. Safe. Alina tested the word. It felt foreign. I don't think I remember what that feels like. Kael sat up slowly, wincing. Come here. She crossed to the bed. He pulled her down beside him, arm wrapping around her waist despite the protest from his ribs. "We did it," he said quietly. "We actually survived. Some of us more than others." Alina thought about Vera dead in an alley, about Victor's men scattered across warehouses and streets, about Dmitri dead for 10 years because someone had betrayed him. A lot of people didn't make it. No, they didn't. Kael's hand found hers. But dwelling on that won't bring them back. Doesn't it bother you? All those bodies? Every single one. His jaw tightened, but I learned a long time ago that guilt doesn't change the past. It just paralyzes the future. Alina was quiet. Then, what happens now? Now we figure out who we are when we're not running. Kael shifted to look at her. Morris offered a deal. Full immunity in exchange for testimony against Victor and cooperation in dismantling what's left of his network. And you took it? I did, which means I'm officially retired from the Empire business. His smile was faint. Going legitimate. Might take up piano full time. Become a tortured artist. You're already tortured. Then I'm halfway there. Alina laughed, small, surprised. It felt strange, foreign, like her body had forgotten how. What about Irina? She asked. Gone. New identity, new city. Sergei too. They're smart. They'll disappear completely. Kael's expression sobered. Which leaves us. What about us? We're still married, legally binding, which means we need to decide if that's still what we want. The question hung between them. Heavy, real. Alina thought about the wedding dress and the cold ceremony, and the way she'd said yes because the alternative was death. Thought about the past 2 weeks, violence and fear, and moments of something that felt dangerously close to love. Do you want an annulment? She asked. I want you to have a choice. Kael's hand tightened on hers. For the first time since this started, you actually have one. No contracts on your head. No empire forcing your hand. Just you and me and the question of whether this... He gestured between them. Whether this is real or just trauma bonding. It's both, Alina said. It can be both. It can. But is that enough? She turned to face him fully. 2 weeks ago, you noticed me at a gala. You could have looked away, could have gotten your own water, but you didn't. And that one moment, that tiny, insignificant moment, changed everything. I'm sorry. Don't be. Alina touched his face. Because in between all the violence and fear, I found something I didn't know I was looking for. Someone who sees me, really sees me, and doesn't ask me to be smaller or quieter or safer. Alina, I'm not done. Her voice was steady now, clear. I choose you, Kael, not because I'm trapped, not because I'm scared, but because somewhere between the penthouse and the warehouse and every terrible thing in between, I fell in love with you. And I want to see what that looks like when we're not dying. Kael's eyes closed. When he opened them again, they were bright with something that might have been tears. I've been in love with you since the gala, he said quietly. I just didn't know what to call it, didn't know how to reach for it without destroying it. His hand cupped her face. But I'm done pretending. I love you, completely, irrationally, in a way that probably isn't healthy but feels inevitable. So what do? We start over. For real this time. No forced vows, no survival marriages. Kael's thumb brushed her cheek. We date. We figure out who we are outside of crisis. And if we still feel this way in 6 months, a year, we do it again, properly. You want to marry me twice? I want to marry you as many times as it takes to get it right. Alina kissed him, slow, deliberate, tasting coffee and painkillers and the sharp edge of hope. When they broke apart, Kael said, There's something I need to show you. They took a cab to the storage unit in Queens. Kael moved stiffly, one hand pressed to his ribs, but he refused help. Inside Unit 237, he opened the safe again, not with the combination this time, but with a key he'd been carrying. Inside, beneath where the hard drive had been, was a small box. Kael pulled it out, opened it. A ring. Not the simple white gold band she wore now. This one was different, platinum, set with a single diamond that caught the fluorescent light and threw it back in fractured colors. I bought this the day after the wedding, Kael said. Told myself I'd give it to you when this was over, when you had the choice. Alina stared at it. That's too much? Too fast? Kael's smile was uncertain. I know, but I wanted you to have it. Wanted you to know that even when I was forcing you into a marriage you didn't want, part of me was already planning for a future where you'd choose to stay. You're an idiot. I've been told. Alina took the ring, held it up to the light. It's beautiful. It's a promise that when we do this again, if we do this again, it'll be because we both want it. No coercion, no survival, just us. She slipped it onto her right hand, the opposite of where the wedding band sat. I'll wear it, but you have to earn it. Fair. Kael closed the safe. What do I have to do? Show me who you are when you're not bleeding or fighting or running an empire. Alina met his eyes. Show me Kael Draven the man, not Kael Draven the myth. What if you don't like what you find? Then we deal with it, together. They left the storage unit and walked to a diner 3 blocks away. Sat in a booth with cracked vinyl seats and ordered coffee and pancakes like they were normal people living normal lives. Tell me something real, Alina said. Like what? Anything. Something that has nothing to do with Victor or empires or survival. Kael thought about it. When I was 12, I wanted to be a pianist, a real one. Concert halls, recordings, the whole thing. What stopped you? Life. My father died when I was 14, left debts, enemies. I had to choose between music and survival. His smile was bitter. I chose wrong, or right, depending on how you look at it. Do you regret it? Every day. He drank his coffee. But I kept playing, kept that part of myself alive, even when everything else turned dark. The piano is the only thing that's entirely mine. Play for me, Alina said. When we get back. Something that makes you feel. That's a dangerous request. I like dangerous. Kael's laugh was soft, real. I've noticed. They talked for 2 hours. About nothing and everything. Alina told him about growing up with a single mother who worked 3 jobs. About wanting to be a writer before realizing she couldn't afford the luxury of artistic dreams. About taking the dispatch job because it was stable and safe and required nothing of her except showing up. Kael told her about Irina, about raising her after their parents died, about building the empire not for power but for protection, a way to make sure she'd never be vulnerable the way they'd been as kids. Did it work? Alina asked. No, she's still vulnerable, just in different ways. Kael stared into his coffee. I thought control meant safety. Turns out it just means you have more to lose. And now I let go. See what happens when I'm not trying to orchestrate everything. He looked at her. Starting with you. But they returned to the apartment as evening fell. The city lights were coming on, turning Brooklyn into a constellation of warm windows and streetlights. Kael went to the piano, a battered upright in the corner that came with the safe house. He sat, wincing as his ribs protested, and placed his hands on the keys. Any requests? He asked. Something sad, Alina said. You promised me sad. He played. The music filled the small apartment, Debussy's Clair de Lune slow and aching. Each note was measured, deliberate, carrying weight that had nothing to do with technique and everything to do with feeling. Alina watched his hands move, watched his face as he disappeared into the music, expression shifting from pain to peace to something that looked like grief. When the last note faded, neither of them spoke. Then Kael said, That's what I was trying to say that night in the penthouse. When I played after you went to bed, I was saying goodbye to the life I thought I'd have, making room for something I didn't know how to ask for. And what was that? You. Alina crossed to the piano, sat beside him on the bench. Play it again, but this time don't say goodbye. Say hello. Kael's hands returned to the keys. This time the music was different, still Debussy, but lighter, hopeful. The notes climbed instead of descended, reaching for something just out of reach. When he finished, Alina took his hand. I want to call my mother, she said. Kael tensed. Are you sure? You said this was over, that we're safe. If that's true, I need to hear her voice. He pulled out a phone, clean, untraceable. 5 minutes. Then we burn this and get you a new one. Alina dialed. The phone rang 3 times. Hello? Her mother's voice was cautious, worried. Mom, it's me. Silence. Then, Alina? Oh my God, where have you been? I've been calling, texting. I know, I'm sorry. Something came up. Work emergency. The lie tasted bitter. But I'm okay. I just wanted you to know I'm okay. You sound different. Different how? Older, her mother's voice cracked. Like something happened that you're not telling me about. Alina's eyes burned. A lot happened, but I'm okay. I promise. Are you in trouble? Not anymore. Alina, I can't explain right now, but I'm safe, and I'll call you again soon. Her voice broke. I needed to hear your voice. I love you, baby. Whatever's going on, I love you. I love you too, Mom. She ended the call before she could start crying. Kael took the phone, removed the SIM card, and crushed it under his heel. You okay? He asked. No, but I will be. Alina wiped her eyes. How long until she can know the truth? 6 months, maybe a year. Victor's trial will take time. Once he's convicted, once the dust settles, you can tell her everything. Kael pulled her close. Until then, we protect her by keeping her ignorant. It's not fair. No, but it's necessary. They stood there, wrapped together, while the city hummed outside. 3 weeks later, Agent Morris called. Kael answered on speaker. Tell me it's good news. Victor pleaded guilty to 47 counts ranging from racketeering to murder conspiracy. He's looking at 6 consecutive life sentences, no parole. Morris's voice was satisfied. His organization is dismantled. Associates are either arrested, dead, or scattered. The syndicate's done. And the leak investigation? Closed. Vera was the source. We traced her communications back 10 years. She was Victor's from the beginning, just like you suspected. A pause. I'm sorry, Draven. I know she was important to you. She was a lie. Lies don't get to be important. Kael's jaw tightened. What about Dimitri's death? Officially remains unsolved. But given Vera's involvement and Victor's confession to ordering the hit, we're closing the case. Dmitry Volkov's murder is attributed to Viktor Arseniev, carried out by Vera Sokolov. Good. Kael's voice was flat. Anything else? Your testimony was instrumental. The DA wants to thank you personally. Tell the DA I prefer to remain unthankful and far away from federal buildings. Morris laughed. I'll pass that along. One more thing. There's a reporter asking questions, digging into your past, your connection to Victor. I can shut her down, but it might be easier to give an interview. Control the narrative. No interviews. Kael, I said no. I'm done with that life. Let the reporter write whatever she wants. I won't be there to read it. He ended the call. Alina looked at him. You really meant it about being done. I did. I am. Kael ran a hand through his hair. For 10 years, I built something dark and powerful because I thought it made me safe. Turns out it just made me a target. So I'm choosing different, smaller, quieter. What does that look like? I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out with you. They'd been living in the Brooklyn apartment for 3 weeks. Chen had declared Kael healed enough to function, though the scars would be permanent. They'd established routines, coffee in the morning, walks through Prospect Park, evenings where Kael played piano and Alina sat on the couch reading books she'd never had time for. It was domestic, ordinary. It was everything Alina had never known she wanted. I've been thinking, she said, dangerous, about what comes next. We can't hide in this apartment forever. Why not? It has running water and Netflix. I could die happy. Kael, he sighed. What are you thinking? We leave, not forever, just away. Somewhere that isn't the city, somewhere we can breathe without looking over our shoulders. Where? Alina pulled out her phone, showed him photos. A small coastal town 3 hours north. Quiet. Sleepy. The kind of place where people knew their neighbors but minded their own business. There's a house for rent, she said. 2 bedrooms, view of the ocean. It's cheap because it needs work, but we take it, Kael interrupted. You didn't even look at it. I don't need to. If you want it, we take it. Alina studied him. You're serious. Completely. I've spent 10 years in this city fighting wars and building empires. I'm ready for something different. He took the phone, scrolled through the photos. When can we move? Next week. If you're sure. I'm sure. Kael pulled her into his lap, careful of his healing ribs. Let's go play house by the ocean. See if we're any good at normal. The house was exactly as advertised. Small, weathered, perched on a cliff overlooking gray-blue water that stretched to the horizon. The porch sagged. The paint was peeling. Inside, the floors creaked and the kitchen appliances dated back to the 90s. It was perfect. They moved in with 2 suitcases and a piano Kael had shipped ahead, a baby grand that took up most of the living room and cost more than 6 months' rent. Priorities, he said when Alina questioned it. They spent the first week fixing things. Kael repaired the porch railing despite his ribs protesting. Alina painted the kitchen a soft yellow that caught the morning light. They argued about furniture placement and discovered Kael couldn't cook, and that Alina burned everything she touched. They ordered takeout and ate on the floor, laughing about their incompetence. At night, Kael played, sometimes Debussy, sometimes Chopin. Once, he played something original, halting and uncertain, a melody that sounded like questions without answers. What is that? Alina asked. Something I've been working on. It doesn't have a name yet. Play it again. He did. This time she listened with her eyes closed, letting the music wash over her. It was sad and hopeful and complicated. Everything they'd been through distilled into notes. When he finished, she said, "Call it beginning." Why? Because that's what this is, the start of something new. Kael's hands rested on the keys. I like that. 6 months passed. The house stopped feeling temporary and started feeling like home. They established routines, morning coffee on the porch, afternoon walks along the beach, evenings where Kael composed and Alina wrote. She'd started writing again, not for publication, just for herself. Stories about people surviving impossible things, about finding light in dark places, about choosing love when every rational part of you screamed to run. Kael read them sometimes, never commented, just pulled her close afterward and kissed the top of her head. You're getting better, he said once. At writing or surviving? Both. They visited Chen once a month for checkups. He declared Kael fully healed, then immediately prescribed physical therapy for the shoulder stiffness. You're not 20 anymore, Chen said. Your body needs maintenance. I'm 32. My point stands. Agent Morris called every few weeks with updates. Victor's trial had concluded. 6 life sentences, as promised. His empire was ashes. The families he'd terrorized were rebuilding. The city was healing. And you? Morris asked during one call. How are you adjusting to civilian life? Still figuring it out, Kael admitted. But I'm getting there. Good. You deserve peace, Draven, after everything. After she hung up, Alina asked, Do you miss it, the empire? No. No hesitation. I miss the certainty sometimes. Knowing exactly who I was, what I was supposed to do. But I don't miss the wait. The constant calculation of who to trust, who to eliminate, how to stay 3 steps ahead. He pulled her close. This is better. Harder in different ways, but better. 1 year after the wedding, they drove back to the city. The penthouse had been sold. Kael's office, shuttered. The safe houses, abandoned. But Judge Carmichael was still taking appointments. They stood in his chambers, the same room where they'd been married the first time. But everything felt different now. Carmichael smiled when he saw them. Back for round 2? Something like that, Kael said. This time there were witnesses. Irina had flown in from wherever she'd disappeared to, looking tanned and relaxed. Sergei appeared via video call, grinning from a beach somewhere tropical. This time, there were flowers. Alina wore white again, not the dress from that first night, but something simple she'd picked out herself. This time, when Carmichael asked if she took this man, Alina's yes came from choice, not survival. And when Kael said his vows, actual vows this time, not just yes, delivered like a death sentence, his voice shook. I, Kael Draven, take you, Alina Virelli, to be my wife. Not because circumstances forced us, not because survival demanded it, but because you saw me at my worst and chose to stay. Because you taught me that strength isn't about control, it's about letting go. Because I love you more than I've ever loved anything, and I want to spend whatever time we have left proving it. Alina's eyes stung. I, Alina Varelli, take you, Kael Draven, to be my husband, not because you saved my life, though you did, not because you gave me purpose, though you did that too, but because you're the person I want beside me when things get hard, when things get easy, when things get boring. You're my partner, my equal, my home. Carmichael pronounced them married. This time, they kissed. The reception was small. Just them, Irina, Sergei on the laptop screen, and Chen, who'd been drafted into attending against his will. They ate cake from a bakery near the old dispatch center, drank champagne that cost too much, laughed about the past year, the disasters, the arguments, the moments where they'd almost quit. Almost doesn't count, Kael said, pulling Alina onto the makeshift dance floor. There was no music, just them, swaying in the middle of Carmichael's chambers, holding each other like they'd discovered something precious. Thank you, Kael said quietly. For what? For not running, for staying, for choosing me even when you had every reason not to. Thank you for noticing me. Alina leaned back to look at him. For asking for water. For being kind when you didn't have to be. That started all of this. I know, best worst decision of my life. Kael laughed. Mine too. They danced until Carmichael cleared his throat and reminded them he had other appointments. Then they said goodbye to Irina, to Sergei, to Chen, who muttered about sentiment and left before anyone could hug him. And they drove back to their small house on the cliff where the ocean crashed against rocks and the piano waited in the living room. 2 years after that first terrible night, Alina stood on the porch watching the sunset. The sky was on fire, orange and pink and gold bleeding into purple. Below, waves rolled in steady rhythm, eternal and indifferent. She wore the platinum ring now. The simple white gold band sat in a drawer, kept as a reminder of where they'd started. Behind her, piano music drifted through the open door. Kael, playing that piece he'd written, beginning. It had evolved over the months, gaining complexity, depth. It sounded less like a question now, more like an answer. Alina touched her stomach, still flat, but not for long. 6 weeks. Chen had confirmed it yesterday with a knowing look and instructions about prenatal vitamins. She hadn't told Kael yet, wasn't sure how, wasn't sure if she was ready, but standing there, watching the sun sink into the ocean, while the man she loved played music that sounded like hope, she thought maybe they could do this, could build something that wasn't born from violence or fear, could create instead of destroy. The music stopped. Footsteps approached. Kael's arms wrapped around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. Beautiful sunset. It is. Alina leaned back into him. Kael? What do you think about kids? He went very still. Kids. As in plural? As in one. For now. For now implies... He turned her around, eyes searching her face. Alina, are you... 6 weeks. Chen confirmed it yesterday. Kael's expression cycled through shock, fear, joy, terror, and landed somewhere in the vicinity of overwhelmed. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. Alina watched him process it. I know this wasn't planned. I know we're still figuring ourselves out, but he kissed her, hard, desperate, like she'd just handed him the world. When they broke apart, his eyes were wet. I'm terrified. Me too. I don't know how to be a father. My own was... He stopped, started again. I don't have a good template for this. Then we make our own. We figure it out together, like everything else. Alina took his hands, placed them on her stomach. We survived a war, Kael. We can survive parenthood. That's wildly optimistic. I learned from the best. Kael laughed, broken, wet, real. A baby! We're having a baby! They stood there as the sun finished setting, painting the world in shades of twilight. Inside, the piano waited. Tomorrow, there would be appointments and planning and all the logistics of bringing a life into the world. But tonight, they just held each other and watched the darkness settle, knowing that morning would come, that they'd face it together, that whatever happened next, They'd already survived the hardest part, each other. 5 years later. The house had expanded, an addition for the nursery that had become a child's room, a studio where Alina wrote and Kael composed, a garden that neither of them knew how to maintain but tried anyway. Their daughter, Alina, named after Kael's mother, was 4. Dark hair, slate-gray eyes, her father's stubborn jaw, and her mother's quiet determination. She sat at the piano now, small fingers picking out a melody Kael had taught her. Chopsticks, simple and repetitive, but she played it like it was a symphony. Kael sat beside her, guiding her hands. Good. Now, the left hand. Like this. Alina concentrated, tongue between her teeth, and added the bass notes. The melody took shape. Alina watched from the doorway. She'd published a book last year, a novel about survival and choice and finding light in dark places. It hadn't been a bestseller, but it had found readers. People who wrote to her about seeing themselves in the story, about feeling less alone. That was enough. Kael had released an album. Compositions he'd written over the past 5 years, recorded in a studio in the city. It was small, niche, but critics called it haunting. Beautiful. The work of someone who'd lived through darkness and found a way to turn it into music. He still had nightmares sometimes. Would wake up gasping, reaching for weapons that weren't there. Alina would hold him through it, whispering that he was safe, that Victor was gone, that this life, this small, ordinary, beautiful life, was real. Alina finished the piece, turned to her father with a grin. Did I do good? You did perfect. Kael kissed her forehead. Now go wash up for dinner. She scrambled off the bench, running past Alina with a shriek of, Mama! Before disappearing down the hall. Kael crossed to Alina, pulled her close. You okay? She asked. Better than okay. He kissed her temple. I was thinking, dangerous. About that first night. The dress, the wedding, how terrified I was. You hid it well. I spent 10 years hiding everything. Kael's hand found hers, but I don't have to anymore. And that's because of you. We saved each other, Alina corrected. That's how this works. Is it? It is for us. They stood there, wrapped together, while Alina sang off key in the bathroom and the ocean crashed below and dinner burned slightly in the oven. It was chaotic, messy. Nothing like the life Kael had built before or the one Alina had imagined for herself. It was perfect. That night, after Alina was asleep and the dishes were done and the house had settled into quiet, Kael played one last piece. Not beginning. Something new. What's this one called? Alina asked. Home, Kael said. It's called Home. The music filled the small house, complex and beautiful, winding through rooms that held their history, past the bedroom where they'd learned each other, past the studio where they created, past Alina's room where she slept, safe and loved. And Alina listened with her eyes closed, remembering a night 3 years ago when a door had slammed and her life had fractured in two before and after. She wouldn't change it. Not the terror, not the violence, not even the moments where she'd been certain she was going to die. Because all of it, every terrible, beautiful moment, had led here. To this house on a cliff. To this man who'd been a monster and become human. To this life they'd built from ashes and choice and love that was earned, not given. The music ended. Kael turned to her. I love you. I love you too. Alina crossed to the piano, sat beside him. Play it again. I want to memorize it. Why? So I never forget how we got here. Kael's hands returned to the keys, and in a small house overlooking the ocean, two people who'd survived the impossible sat together and listened to the sound of home. Outside, the city glittered in the distance, beautiful and brutal and indifferent. But they were here. They were safe. They were home. And that, finally, was enough. The end. Epilogue. 3 decades later. The call came on a Tuesday. Alina, Dr. Kael Draven now, teaching music theory at Juilliard, answered her phone during office hours to hear a voice she didn't recognize. Is this the daughter of Kael Draven? Who's asking? A reporter. I'm writing a book about the fall of Viktor Arseniev's empire. Your father's name came up. I was hoping. Elena hung up. She'd heard the stories growing up, not from her parents. They'd been careful, selective about what they shared, but from the internet, from true crime podcasts, from the occasional person who recognized her father's face and asked uncomfortable questions. She knew about the empire, the violence, the wedding that had started as survival and ended as choice. She knew her parents had lived an entire lifetime before she was born, but she also knew them as the people who'd raised her, who'd taught her piano and encouraged her writing and showed her that strength came from choosing kindness when cruelty was easier. That night, she drove to the house on the cliff. Her father was 73 now, silver-haired, scarred, moving slower than he used to. But his hands were still steady on the piano keys. Her mother was 70, writing her 6th novel in the studio edition, gray hair pulled back in a messy bun. They looked up when Elena entered, smiled. "Hey, sweetheart," Alina said. "Didn't expect you this week." "I got a call, a reporter, asking about the past." Kael's expression didn't change. "What did you say?" "Nothing. I hung up." Elena sat on the couch. "But I want to know, really know, not the sanitized version, the truth." Her parents exchanged a look. Some silent conversation honed over 3 decades of marriage. Then Kael stood, crossed to a shelf, pulled down a box Elena had never noticed before. Inside, photos, documents, a wedding dress preserved in tissue paper. "We've been waiting for you to ask," Alina said quietly. And they told her. Everything. The gala, the contract, the forced wedding, Victor and Vera, and the war that had consumed their lives for 2 brutal weeks. They told her about violence and fear and moments where they'd been certain they wouldn't survive. But they also told her about the piano music, the pad thai, the tiny moments of kindness that had grown into love. They told her about choosing each other, about building a life from ashes, about proving that people could change, could heal, could be more than their worst moments. When they finished, Elena was crying. "I'm sorry," Kael said. "I know this isn't what—" "Don't apologize." Elena wiped her eyes. "You survived. You chose each other. You built this." She gestured to the house, to them, to everything they'd created. "That's not something to apologize for. That's something to celebrate." Alina smiled. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." They sat together as the sun set over the ocean. 3 generations of choice and survival and love that refused to quit. And in the distance, the city glittered. Beautiful, brutal, indifferent. But they were here. They had survived. And their story, messy and violent and complicated and true, would outlast them all.